And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. It's a fabulous Friday. It's January 4th, 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is my co-host, Joe Hagmann. He's my son. And folks, you're about to hear 3 hours of unbiased and uncensored news, analysis, and information you need to know. We picked this information out of all of the white noise of headlines. Information we're going to be going over tonight that we feel is of extreme importance. Folks, you can find us on the internet at homelandsecurityus.com. That's homelandsecurityus.com. Of course, CanadaFreePress.com. And you know what? You can watch us. We're dark tonight. But ordinarily on the Christians United Broadcasting Network. We spent some time today, folks, working with our audio equipment after having just such a horrendous time, and you know what we've been going through. I don't have to tell you, folks. Can just any comments in the chat room? Are we less muffled tonight? I hate to do this in a live setting, but please, if you can comment on our sound quality.
And while you guys comment, just an FYI, we did not hook up the new mics. Those will be done this weekend as we were learning the new world of sound and all the interesting knobs and buttons that can make or break your audio.
Yeah, actually, it's just an amazing wow. It's just a wow. But anyway, Joe, it's good to have you in studio. And you were in studio quite a bit today. So
we talked a lot.
We made some game plans, actually.
Yes, we did, and we have some interesting and important announcements, and we have some important news to get into.
Yeah, before we do, folks, if you don't mind, go to homelandsecurityus.com and check out our announcement on the top of our site. And it's an important announcement, and we'll get into that. Rather than me tell you about it right now, I'd like to just direct you to that link, that article, that announcement.
Sunday.
It's about Sunday.
We're going to have a broadcast Sunday that you are not going to want to miss. It will be the normal Sunday time from 9 to midnight Eastern.
Yep.
And like I said, either if you get it through the archives or you listen live, you're not going to want to miss that show.
Frankly, folks, and this is all I'm going to say about it right now. I was extremely surprised when I was contacted by Steve Quayle today, and that's all I'll say. Before we get into tonight's program, something that has been weighing on my mind here, and I just wanted to touch base. I don't know how many of you folks have heard of Kitty Worthman. Kitty Worthman survived Hitler, and there is an article that was written about Kitty and about her survival. It's on BeliefNet, one of the places, and I want to thank the numerous listeners who sent us this article. After I'm done, we'll post it in the chat room, but let me just kind of go over this just a tad. And the reason I want to is because in case you haven't read this or you don't know about Kitty Worthman, or in case you don't really quite get where we're at today, and I think all of our listeners do, but I think this is important for the foundation for our show tonight. Kitty is a witness to history. And here's what she says. She says, I cannot tell you that Hitler took Austria by tanks and guns. It would distort history. We voted him in. Now think about that, folks. Now, if you remember the plot to The Sound of Music, the Von Trapp family escaped over the Alps rather than submit to the Nazis. Well, Kitty was not among them. Her family chose to stay in her native Austria. And when Kitty was 10, she was bright, she was aware of things, and she was watching. Now imagine that, 10 years old, watching events unfold. We elected him by a landslide, 98% of the vote, she recalls. She wasn't old enough to vote, though, obviously, in 1938. She was just approaching her 11th birthday, but she does have vivid memories of that time. Everyone thinks that Hitler just rolled in with his tanks and took Austria by force. And by the way, Joe, your family, on your father's side, or your father's side, my side, your paternal grandfather has relatives in Austria.
Yeah.
But anyway, in 1938, Austria was in a deep depression, and nearly one-third, she says, of our workforce was unemployed. Now think about that. 33%, or we'll say 30%. Where are we at today? Anyway, we had 25% inflation, 25% bank loan interest rates. Farmers and business people, they were declaring bankruptcy every day, and young people were going from house to house begging for food. Not that they didn't want to work, there just weren't any jobs. And Kitty's mother was a Christian, and she believed in helping people in need, and every day that her family cooked a big kettle of soup and baked bread to feed the poor, hungry people. About 30 people would come to her house every day. And she says that we looked to our neighbor on the north, Germany, where Hitler had been in power since 1933. We had been told that they didn't have any unemployment, they didn't have any crime, they had a really high standard of living. Nothing was ever said about persecution, about any persecution of any group, whether Jews or Christians or otherwise. That they were all happy in Germany, and we wanted to live life the same. We wanted life in Austria to be that way too. We were promised that a vote for Hitler would mean the end of unemployment and help for the family. And Hitler also said that businesses would be assisted and farmers would get their farms back that they lost through bankruptcy or whatever. 98% of the population voted to annex Austria to Germany and have Hitler for their ruler. And she said that, they were really happy. And for 3 days they danced in the streets and had candlelight parades, and kind of like their new messiah. The new government opened up big field kitchens, and everyone was fed. And after the election, German officials were appointed like a miracle. Suddenly they had law and order, and 3 or 4 weeks later, everyone was working. The government made sure that a lot of work was created through the public works service. Think about that. Anyway, Hitler decided that we should have equal rights for women, Kitty states. Now before this, it was custom that that married Austrian women did not work outside the home. And that's an important fact to consider. That an able-bodied husband would be looked down upon if he couldn't support his family, and many women in the teaching profession were elated that they could retain the jobs previously they had previously been required to give up for marriage. Then we lost religious education for kids. Our education was nationalized, and Kitty says that she attended a very good public school. The population was predominantly Catholic, so we had religion in our schools. The day we elected Hitler, which was March 13th, 1938, she says that I walked into my schoolroom to find the crucifix replaced by Hitler's picture hanging next to a Nazi flag. Our teacher, a very devout woman, stood up and told the class we wouldn't pray or have religion anymore. Instead, we sang Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, and she had physical education. And Sunday became National Youth Day with compulsory attendance. Parents weren't pleased about the sudden change in curriculum, but they were told that if they didn't send us, they would receive a pretty stiff letter of warning the first time. The second time, they would be fined what would be today about $300, and the third time they would be subjected to jail. And things got worse from there. The first 2 hours of school, consisted of political indoctrination. The rest of the day, they had sports as time went along. They loved it. Oh, we had so much fun, and got our sports equipment for free. Now, folks, just think about this and compare it to today.
And you know, as you said, she wasn't old enough to vote. I don't know what, if anything about before Hitler was in power, you know, we'll say in 1923. We had, and before that, you had World War I. You had the Weimar Republic, the horrific economic, what we'll see here, the runaway inflation, with the printed money, bread lines, everybody poor, no work. That preceded Hitler. That was really what fueled.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Exactly, and that's what she's saying, and that's what she remembers.
They were looking for a savior. They're looking for somebody to fix all their problems.
Right, and think about where we were in 2008. Remember that September in 2008, folks, where we were hours away from martial law because of the economic collapse. But Kitty says, you know, my mother was really unhappy. When the next term of school started, she took me out of public school, put me in a convent. And I told her she could not do that. And she told me that someday when I grew up, that I'd be grateful. And
parents kids turned their parents in
yes,
to the Hitler authorities.
They did.
When they would not allow them. Basically, they gave the Hitler youth the mindset that, you know, if there's trouble at home or they're not going to let you participate or be a part of this, then you let us know and we'll take care of it.
Well, yeah. And after, of course, when she was in school, she describes her lifestyle briefly in school, but then she said the food rationing began. In 1939, the war started and a food bank was established, and all the food was rationed and could only be purchased using food stamps. Think about that today. How would that work out? Maybe an EBT card for everyone, especially if our economy collapsed. But anyway, at the same time, a full-time or full employment law was passed, which meant if you didn't work, you didn't get a ration card, and you didn't have a card, you starved to death. And women who stayed home to raise their families didn't have any marketable skills and often had no job, or often had to take jobs more suited for men. And soon after this, the draft was implemented. And think about where we are. Our military spread so thin. It was compulsory back then for young people, male and female, to give 1 year to the labor corps. Remember, Skitty?
And I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
Putting the country before God is what I am. Aside from everything I know about, you know, that time in Hitler's reign and the millions of people that he murdered, these people put their country before they put the Lord and Savior.
And it wasn't forced in a way.
Some were forced to. Some did it willingly.
Well,
some
true.
Went along to get along, even though they knew what was coming and what was happening.
Yeah, I suppose. I'm sure there were people that did make that conscious, willful decision. We're going to trade faith for.
Also, being a broke nation, standing in bread lines for years, trying to recover and things start getting better. Just imagine if right now, somebody came on the scene and got rid of the debt and fixed the world's problems and made everything real nice and neat, and all he asked is for you to worship him, or
he was the one to be. He was the Messiah, and it's interesting that you say that. Now, folks, think about this. The compulsory service for men and women, including females, for the 1 year of the labor corps. During the day, the girls worked on the farms, and at night they returned to the barracks for military training, just like the men or the boys at the time. And they were trained to be anti-aircraft gunners, and they participated in these signal corps. And after the labor corps, they weren't discharged, but were used on the front lines. And Kitty writes that when she went back to Austria to visit her family and friends, most of these women were emotional cripples because they were just not equipped to handle the horrors of combat. And Joe, what makes me think about this is when women joined the military, pushing for equal rights. And isn't it funny? Equal rights has been a platform of the Communist Party, and it's actually a platform here of the fascist party. That
everything can be used most things for good or for bad,
right?
Or for both.
A little bit like a baseball bat.
A lot for good and a little for bad, or a little for good and a lot for bad.
Right.
The women, we've talked about the history of the women's rights movement and how the agenda behind it was to be able to tax more percentage of the people that lived in this nation, not to actually give women more liberties, but to get more money out of the population.
And that was an attack on the nuclear family as well. I mean, people remember Leave It to Beaver, the sitcom back in the late 50s, early 60s. And if you think about that, hey, come on now. And I remember coming home watching Leave It to Beaver, and thinking, boy, and that's kind of, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but back then the dresses, the aprons, and I'm not saying that I'm certainly not disparaging working women, or even I'm just saying how it is or how it was, but moving on here, I just want to get through this real quick, because I think this is so incredibly close to what we're seeing,
and I believe it is.
The state, she writes, raised a whole generation of children. There were no motherly women to take care of the children, just people highly trained in child psychology. By this time, no one talked about equal rights. We knew we had been had. See, Americans today, I just don't believe they know they've been had. I think that escapes them.
America has been swept from under their feet, and they now live in a country that is not America as it was originally, or for the 99% of its time as in history. We do not live in the United States of America anymore.
You're right.
We live under a international tyranny.
Well, what got me was this, and I suppose this was my turning point. I mean, we know all that, right? But before Hitler, they had very good medical care. Many American doctors trained at the University of Vienna, and that's in Austria. After Hitler, healthcare was socialized. It was free, actually affordable for everyone. Doctors were salaried by the government. The problem was, since it was free, the people were going to the doctor for everything. And don't we see that too in even today in America, when free medical care, when you have a medical assistance card? Not that everyone does this with a medical assistance card, but a lot of people do, where if they have the littlest of things, because it's covered, they'll go to the emergency room. And by design, our system is set up that way, so the government could take care of that. But if you needed elective surgery, you had to wait a year or more for your turn. There was no money for research. It was poured into socialized medicine. That's what's going to happen here. And research at the medical schools, it stopped. So the best doctors left Austria and immigrated to other countries. As for health care, our tax rates went up to 80% of our income. Newlyweds immediately received a $1,000 loan from the government to establish a household. But we had big programs for families, she writes. All daycare and education were free. High schools were taken over by the government, and college tuition was subsidized. Now, sounds good, doesn't it? Well, everyone is entitled to free handouts such as food stamps, clothing, and housing. What's Obama trying to do? What's Obama doing? He's doing the same thing.
Or promising as much. And giving, well, and definitely we see, it's not just Obama, as, welfare doubled under George Bush, under his 8 years.
Yep.
It has already doubled under Obama again. And this is the plan, as I've been saying. They are not going to fix the economy. They are destroying it by design, because they have the solution already prepared.
That is the key. What you said, they created the problem, they created the solution, and the solution, boy, I'll tell you, we're not going to like the solution. And I'm not going to read or reference the entire article here, because it's worth the read, it's worth to pass around, but But the other thing that got to me, in 1944, she writes, I was a student teacher in a small village in the Alps. The villages were surrounded by mountain passes, which in the winter were closed off with snow. And that caused people to be isolated. So people intermarried and offspring were sometimes physically challenged. When she writes, when I arrived, I was told there were 15 mentally retarded adults, but they were all useful and did good manual work. I knew one named Vincent very well. He was a janitor of the school. One day I looked out at the window and saw Vincent and others getting into a van. I asked my superior where they were going, and she said to an institution where the state health department would teach them a trade and to read and to write, and the families were made to sign papers with a little clause they could not visit them for 6 months. They were told the visits would interfere with the program and might cause homesickness. As time passed, letters started to dribble back saying these people died a natural, merciful death. The villagers, of course, weren't fooled. We suspected what was happening. Those people left in excellent physical health, and they all died within 6 months. Yeah, we called this euthanasia. Then they took our guns. Next came gun registration. People were getting injured by guns. Imagine that. Hitler said the real way to catch criminals, and we still had a few, she writes, was by matching serial numbers on guns. Most citizens were law-abiding and dutifully marched to the police station to register their firearms. Not long afterwards, the police said it was best for everyone to turn their guns in. The authorities already knew who had them, so it was futile not to comply voluntarily. And with that, no more freedom of speech, and anyone who said anything against the government was taken away. We knew so many people who were arrested, not just Jews, but priests and ministers who spoke up. Totalitarianism didn't come quickly. It took 5 years, from 1938 to 1943, to fully realize full dictatorship in Austria. Now, had it happened overnight, my countrymen would have fought to the last breath. They would have died fighting.
I want to stop here. In this book, Autocracy, Totalitarianism, Dictatorship, and Autocracy. This is from 1954. It talks about the directed economy of the Hitler years. In terms of the concept of bureaucracy as defined, we find developing under Hitler a dualism of government and party bureaucracies, which found symbolic expression in the fact that Hitler was both chancellor and leader of the party. It goes on to say this is not an unfamiliar situation in constitutional systems.
It's the way it is in America.
Right. And it goes on to say that, but since in these systems the party and its leader are only in power as long as the electorate supporters them in free elections, the government functionaries are largely independent of their day-to-day operations. And it goes on to say, until Hitler, the party had come to stay.
Well, here we are. Look, and I believe this to be true. What we're seeing right now, and Joe, you and I spoke about this at length today. We were doing a lot of research, folks, for tonight's show. And there's a lot of white noise out there amid the news, and that's by design. I'm convinced of that. Joe's convinced of that. You know, what we're seeing is the incremental overtaking of our country. It's fascism and communism and socialism.
And listen to this.
It's all together.
After Hitler took power and got control of the government, he started to make various branches and extensions of that government, such as the security police
and the
Hitler Youth, the National Socialist Civil Servants League, and others. It permeated and infiltrated the government service. This meant, as we have already said, that the governmental bureaucracy was de-bureaucratized in the following ways: the centralization of control, and it just goes on from there. And it's reading like what's happening in America now. We see the DHS we see these new agencies, the TSA.
Right.
And on a side note, we're going to talk about it later, but Department of Homeland Security about another 200,000 bullets as reported today.
Gee. Another, and folks, if you tried to buy rounds, ammunition for your AR-15 or your AK-47 or your SKS, have you tried to buy rounds, ammunition? You can't. Well, you can, but you're limited. And there was a delivery made to a local gun shop last week. 8,000 rounds, a pallet of ammunition, gone in 3 hours. 3 hours. That's all it took. And that's in northwestern Pennsylvania. But the message by Kitty Worthman is this. She says, this is my eyewitness account. And folks, I'll post the link, and you should read this. It's true. Those of us who sailed past the Statue of Liberty came to a country of unbelievable freedom and opportunity. America is truly the greatest country in the world. And then she warns, don't let freedom slip away, because after America, there is no place to go. And see, people have to realize that once America falls, the last one off the planet, turn off the lights, because we are the firewall for freedom. And I have a very heavy heart when I think about what's taking place in this country, what people are doing to this country, and it's going to affect the entire world. I mean, you think it's bad now, it's going to get worse. And, you know, Joe, you were talking about some things, too. We really have to pay attention to what we as a country, what NATO and or the bilateral, trilateral and Bilderbergers and the globalist entities are doing to Africa. What's going on in Africa? Our troops, by the way, are spread so thin across the globe, it's not even funny. So do you think for a moment, if something did take place in the Middle East, they wouldn't start up a draft, much like Hitler did? Of course they would. Meanwhile, the calls, to bring their troops back from these faraway places are going unheeded and will go unheeded. It's so bad, Joe, that I was talking to someone, and I think I might have mentioned this, and if I didn't, or if I did, forgive me, but a friend of mine, his grandson, had been awarded a medal for service, for a special thing he did in combat medal. And, I don't know, it was a couple of months later, there was a deduction out of his paycheck for the cost of the medal. This is how we're treating our service people. And I find that just incredible. But then that's what's taking place right now.
And under Hitler's government bureaucracy, it says it depended more and more upon positions in the party and its formations rather than the qualifications for the office. Objectivity was denounced in favor of, objectivity was denounced in favor of ideological conformity. Neither precision nor continuity was permitted when it conflicted with the views of the Führer's whims.
See, and that's what's taking place right now. They don't care about ability to perform. And quite frankly, I don't think the government has, that's always been a running joke. It's, if you can't do anything, just get a job with the government. And if you are ideologically sound and in agreement, and there is continuity with that agreement with the government, then you're fine. But speak up. Try to be efficient in a government setting. Of course, it's not going to be pretty because, but that's what they're doing right now, and it's ideology over anything else, and it's on the federal level, not necessarily on the state and local levels, although there too. But we are looking at dare I say, the globalization of this country, the Europeanization. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'll use it. We are becoming like Europe, and that's by design. And the reason we're becoming like Europe is because of the European influence of the globalists like the Rothschilds. And people say, "Oh, come on, man! You know, no." But it is. That's exactly what it is. We are being our government, our puppet government, the Obama, the dog off his chain, the guy that's developed his own Muslim muscles, if you will.
I wouldn't even know what to call him.
Well,
I mean, so many people have so many different beliefs and ideas of what he really is and what he really represents. And I would, instead of categorizing him as a Muslim, I say he's just an agent.
No. He just developed Muslim. No,
I mean, maybe he was a Muslim at once, but he doesn't, in my opinion, does he practice?
No. What I'm saying is this. The globalists put him up there, right?
Right.
And we can agree on that.
Right.
He's on a chain. Right. But picture him on a chain, and he broke that chain, but he's still within the fence.
Yeah, okay, so what I'm saying is he might have been a Muslim before,
right.
But he has hidden that or given that up in the public because of whatever he's, given whatever chores he's given to do. Now, if you became president, would you, hide your Christianity?
Of course not.
Okay, there's a big problem there, and there's a reason that he's doing that.
Well, yes, and I think if we really want to be intellectually honest here, and I've said this before, made this comparison before, right now, if we look at Obama, he's a cultural Muslim, and he's a Marxist/communist. He was raised as a Marxist communist, and he's a cultural Muslim. Don't forget his time in Indonesia, and don't forget his ties and his lineage with communists and Marxists. So we are in a point in history where Obama is going to be, in my view, the last president of the United States. I don't think we're going to have another one. But we elected, this country elected a guy. If 9/11 would have been September 7th or December 7th, 1941, you could picture Obama as a man of Japanese descent with Nazi views, because that's the same thing that we're seeing right now. And people will say, well, no, that's pretty racist. Well, no, it's reality. It's not racism. It's reality. So this is something that I believe that this is where we're at. But the groundwork for the show tonight was laid out by this personal account, this survival story by this woman by the name of Kitty Worthman, who lived in Austria, who saw the things take place, who saw the youth of Austria. This generation began to, to look at Hitler as their Messiah. And is this not the very same thing we're seeing right now? Of course it is. And is not America, much like Austria was in 1933 to 43? Of course we are.
Hitler proclaimed himself the Supreme Law Lord. I can't even pronounce this. Oberster Russia. Yeah,
sure.
Pretty much the Lord.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that, okay, so against that backdrop, what is important today? Look, people are saying, well, they're coming after our guns, and there's the issue of the economy and other things, and I just I love this, because I shouldn't say I love it. I chuckle when I read internet postings, for example. No one's going to get my guns. I fell over in a boating accident, and boy, they're at the bottom of the lake, and look, they're not only coming for our guns; they're coming for us. You see, it's not the gun. I mean, the guns, obviously, but there are too many guns out there. To try to take away, and the logistics of this, if you think it through, how are they going to take everyone's guns away? They're not. Sure, they're going to go through this registration and attempted voluntary compliance. Yes, that's going to happen. But they've got a plan upon a plan upon a plan upon a plan. And they know that the attitude of people is going to be one of defiance.
And we saw what happened in Illinois. There was news that that lame duck bill they were trying to pass to ban guns has not went through. I think, as you said on the show,
that's such an in-your-face move. Of course, they're not going to criminalize guns
during a lame duck session.
People can see through that. So, of course, that's not going to happen. But here's what is going to happen. Like so many government actions that start out being voluntary, it's going to become mandatory when I'm talking about the registration of weapons. And it's going to start out by all of these big, bad, evil rifles, machine gun, assault rifles, assault weapons as they call them. And they're going to morph the descriptions.
Yeah, listen to this. On that note, a Connecticut lawmaker wants names of gun owners to be made public. This is what read the Janet Reno quote. Right. First, it's I forgot the first one. Second is registration. Third is confiscation.
Well, and that's correct. See, they know because of when I say they, I'm talking about the people in power. They know, of course, that there are too many guns out there, that the attitude of people buying these guns are such that they're not going to be cooperative, at least not the majority of the people buying them. They know that the Second Amendment, the people who are buying them now, there's some panic buying, and there's a big dynamic going on. But the realistic approach is this. They are going to, either through legislation or executive order, more likely than not through executive order, they're going to require a registration period and then a voluntary compliance period to register your weapons. Now, if you don't register your weapons, you will become a felon. And I got to tell you, that will deter a great number of people because no one wants to get caught owning a weapon let me rephrase it. No one wants to get labeled a felon. No one wants to be have a felony conviction on their record. Gee, that would certainly limit your job getting ability. Mm-hmm. Okay, but plus the stigma, the social stigma. But they are going to have, and this is news I got earlier today, and I didn't even think about this, but folks, I want you to think about this. They are planning this huge, massive public relations campaign to ensure or to facilitate compliance for gun registration. And this public relations firm, and you're going to be hearing about this. You watch the television. You're going to see ads, or not ads, but public service announcements on television. It's good to register your guns. Look, you have to do it.
Oh, it's
safety.
Community, yeah.
That's right. See, that's how they're going to plant the seed. And they are going to use very influential Hollywood actors. They're going to use very influential spokespeople. And they are already attempting to chip away at the NRA. But these people are cunning, and I want you to really understand this because you're going to be seeing in the next 60 days these public service announcements. Well, in the 60 days that follow this, whatever order comes through, whatever legislation passes, and it's going to become gradually more severe. And this is now.
I have a clip uploaded. I forgot it was even here from December 30th, 2012. On Meet the Press, President Obama was on there talking about gun control after the Connecticut shooting. If you want to play this, because it does talk about, he wasn't in favor of changing any laws, but now we all need to reconsider after what happened. Of course. So we'll go to that, and we'll be right back. It's about 4 minutes.
Do you have the stomach for the political fight for new gun control laws?
David, I think anybody who was up in Newtown who talked to the parents, who talked to the families, understands that something fundamental in America has to change. And all of us have to do some soul searching, including me as president, that we allow a situation in which 20 precious small children are getting gunned down in a classroom. And I've been very clear that an assault rifle ban, banning these high-capacity clips, background checks, that there are a set of issues that I have historically supported and will continue to support.
But can you get it done? I mean,
and so the question is, are we going to be able to have a national conversation and move something through Congress? I'd like to get it done in the first year. I will put forward a very specific proposal based on the recommendations that Joe Biden's task force is putting together as we speak. And so this is not something that I will be putting off. But
the NRA says it's just not going to work. It didn't work before. It's not going to work now.
My response is something has to work. And it is not enough for us to say this is too hard, so we're not going to try. So what I intend to do is I will call all the stakeholders together. I will meet with Republicans. I will meet with Democrats. I will talk to anybody. I think there are a vast majority of responsible gun owners out there who recognize that we can't have a situation in which somebody with severe psychological problems is able to get the kind of high-capacity weapons that this individual in Newtown obtained and gun down our kids. And yes, it's going to be hard.
So we have an armed guard at every school in the country? That's what the NRA believes. They told me last week that could work.
I'm not going to prejudge the recommendations that are given to me. I am skeptical that the only answer is putting more guns in schools. And I think the vast majority of the American people are skeptical that that somehow is going to solve our problem. And look, here's the bottom line. We're not going to get this done unless the American people decide it's important. And so this is not going to be simply a matter of me spending political capital. One of the things that you learn, having now been in this office for 4 years, is the old adage of Abraham Lincoln's that with public opinion there's nothing you can't do, and without public opinion there's very little you can get done in this town. So I'm going to be putting forward a package, and I'm going to be putting my full weight behind it, and I'm going to be making an argument to the American people about why this is important and why we have to do everything we can to make sure that something like what happened at Sandy Hook Elementary does not happen again. But ultimately, the way this is going to happen is because the American people say, that's right. We are willing to make different choices for the country, and we support those in Congress who are willing to take those actions. And will there be resistance? Absolutely, there will be resistance. And the question then becomes, whether we are actually shook up enough by what happened here that it does not just become another one of these routine episodes where it gets a lot of attention for a couple of weeks and then it drifts away. It certainly won't feel like that to me. This is something that, that was the worst day of my presidency, and it's not something that I want to see repeated.
It hit close to home.
Absolutely.
Well, no.
And I was playing with audio there. If you guys heard anything going on, just trying to mess with it.
I think the message there is clear, folks, don't you? If you really listened between the lines, I think the message is clear.
Yeah. He is going to continue with his agenda that he was set out to do, which was pretty much finish the last handing over the American sovereignty to the UN, finish the destruction of the economy, and help the New World Order become the real power structure of the world.
And that's one thing, folks, I think that you really have to understand. I think we all need to understand the goal of the New World Order, the goal of the global governance crowd. In fact, I don't remember where I saw this, but it was I believe it was on a YouTube video. But back in 1961, they were doing there was a paper that was issued back in 1961 for the disarmament of all people, and they would do it through registration and then eventually confiscation.
Yeah, they could go about this many ways. And you heard Obama say in that speech or interview that, this tragedy will not be forgotten. Well, that will probably be because there will be another worse tragedy to follow, as we saw Aurora.
That's right.
Now we saw this other one, and no matter what you believe about it, even if there's doubts that, if things really even happen there for different reasons. And I don't know, I just got to stop. Did you see the medical examiner's interview on that day?
No.
Okay, after the show, I'm going to show you some. That'll blow your mind. But anyway, regardless, political theater or not, they're going to do whatever they can to take the power away from the people of America. Now, the Constitution grants that we are the government, but we have been irresponsible in our duty, and we have let it get this far.
Well, let me take you back to March 13th, 1996. That's the day when 43-year-old Thomas Hamilton walked into the Dunblane School, primary school in the Scottish town of Dunblane, and armed with 4 handguns, he shot and killed 16 children and 1 adult before shooting himself.
Yeah, and I don't know if we had a chance to mention this. The new DHS video from Alabama, if you're in find yourself out of the blue in a mass shooting situation, their new motto: run, hide.
Run and hide.
And then fight if you have to. Because you don't have guns to protect yourself or stop the shooter in the act.
Yeah,
exactly. You have to run and hide. And is that really the American way?
Yeah,
Aren't you supposed to put your life on the line to save other people? Shouldn't you attack and
the home of the free and the land of the brave?
Well,
it's now the home of the oppressed and the land of the afraid.
I mean, I'll say this, and if the situation ever arose, I pray it never would, where I found myself in that situation, gun or no gun, I'd go right at the guy, because nobody else probably would. They'd be too busy running and hiding, waiting to be shot like ducks in a barrel.
Exactly. Well, don't forget, though, like I said, March 13th, 1996, in Dunblane, the 16 children and 1 adult in the Scottish town in the UK, basically, is one of the worst massacres ever. And 4 handguns. Well, what happened? In 1997, a year later, the United Kingdom, in response to that massacre, made handgun ownership outright illegal. This is the dream of the progressives, of the communists in this country, even if all they can do is to keep us going inch by inch toward that goal, it is obviously instructive of the alleged paradise that they want us to live in. 2 years after that handgun ban, by the way, the number of handgun-related crimes in the UK fell from 2,650, roughly, to, I don't know, it was just some incredible amount. Oh, wait. No. Did it? No. Actually, no. It rose by 40%. And then since the 1998 to the present, or 1998 to, I think the last figure was in 2008, the 10-year period, gun crime in the UK rose by an average of 89% in the UK, and in some areas the increase in gun crime was almost 600%. So Piers Morgan, if you're listening,
go back to where you came from.
Yeah, you can go back to the UK, where 40% rise after the handgun. Now, to be fair, the reporting methods were changed since the mid-'90s, and some increase in the crime rates can be attributed to this. But even after adjusting for that statistical difference, there was absolutely no statistical relevant drop in gun crime. So that argument cannot even be made right now, especially in the UK. And when they do this, keep in mind when Piers Morgan talks about the lowering of a gun crime, it's the figures are heavily skewed.
Well, we do have some figures if you want to get into them. First, I want to say this. I want to read this. Marines read a letter to Dianne Feinstein. I will not be disarmed.
Right, and that's gone viral. Yeah. I mean, I've gotten that probably 500 times.
Yeah, I saw this today, and I wanted to post it in the chat here. I'm not going to read it. If you guys want to check it out and read the letter yourself, Marines write letter to Dianne Feinstein. I will not be disarmed. That is, she's been trying to ban guns since, I don't know how old she is, but probably since guns were invented, from what she looks like. And I'm not trying to be insulting, but I mean, it's like what her whole career's been about. 1995, she put out an assault weapons ban piece of legislation. So this is something that obviously she is very in favor of doing. Well, and somebody mentioned in chat, and we talked about this when it happened. Look what happened in China the same day as the shootings in Connecticut.
The stabbing or the slashing, stabbing and slashing, yes.
No, I mean, and we talked about this, and we can continue to talk about this. Did people ever murder anybody or murder each other before guns were invented?
Let me think.
Yeah. Were there world wars before guns were invented? Not in the sense that we saw or people saw World War I or II.
Right.
But yes, there were.
Of course there were. Yes.
What would they use? Because if they didn't have guns, they had has something, that projectile that shot something, right?
You got to see the catapult I built in my backyard.
I mean, the common sense arguments are gone. It's just ridiculous. And what's worse is that the American people regurgitate it and start believing it.
That's right. But the important piece of news here, and this is something, folks, that you're not going to read, you're not going to see. Excuse me. There's going to be an onslaught, a PR onslaught, by well-known people, well-respected people that will advocate compliance with a voluntary registry system, followed by the criminalization of possession of certain weapons that include, but are not limited to, the automatic or semi-automatic weapons, the so-called assault rifles. And in addition to that, will be included the semi-automatic pistols, handguns. They're going to at first limit the number of rounds capable in a magazine. That's the holder of the bullets, if you will.
Yeah, and I saw this article today, and it's not, I've seen things like this before, but I think the reason that police were kicked out of a restaurant was because the owners didn't like police. Police were kicked out of a Bellevue Denny's for being armed. Bellevue Police Chief Bill Clay is ordering his officers to get their pancakes from anywhere but Denny's, calling the restaurant a political stupidness. The new order comes after a New Year's Day clash between 5 detectives and one of Denny's managers. The department says the detectives wore out of uniform but were wearing their badges when the manager, David Rice, asked them to leave or put their guns in their vehicle. This is a Denny's manager talking to police detectives, telling them they have to put their guns.
I don't think how could you not know if the badges, because they wear them on their belt, of course, with their guns. So you'd have to, if you saw the gun,
I mean, if they sat down to order a meal and they didn't come in shooting, you should know already, for the most part, they're probably okay.
You would think.
Yeah. I mean, they're
common sense.
Right. But just, it's ridiculous to see this. Rice told the detectives that one of the weapons, specifically a female detective's gun, was making another diner feel uncomfortable. Here we go again with everybody's feelings, making everybody happy, except the law-abiding citizen. As the officers were leaving without their food, the general manager, Michael Vann, walked up and corrected the manager and said it was fine for them to stay, but the officer said it would be too awkward for them as they left. Denny's corporate office released an apology. Denny's policy permits law enforcement officials to carry firearms in the restaurant, and we regret any misunderstanding. Well, let me tell you something, Denny's. You don't permit anything, okay? You don't tell cops where they can and can't carry their guns. Who do you I mean, if I lived in that town, I'd open up a breakfast diner, and I would give a discount to anybody that came in with a gun, concealed carry or whatever, as long as they were legally.
Well, and that's one of the not civil disobedience, but one of the measures we can all take. If you are listening to this broadcast and you have a concealed weapons permit, only frequent the establishments that allow you to carry, armed carry. For example, I think Starbucks over some other place allows you. Starbucks, I think, says is okay, and some other coffee place doesn't. So I could have that backwards. But you
the cops should have told the manager to leave. Well, somebody commented that they should have told the customer that complained to leave. Yeah.
See, but now
I would have arrested him if I was a cop.
I think the franchise owner was there, or the head guy was there at the time, and he said, "Wait a minute, stop the cops on their way out." Says, "Wait
right.
a second,
It's not right."
Yeah, and the cop says, "Look, no." It's at that point, you're beyond the point of no return. They left, and
you remember we were in New York a year and a half ago, and there was a shooting in a restaurant similar to that. It was a Denny's or one of the common breakfast places, and I'm not even sure if there were military people in there. They weren't carrying their weapons, and somebody came in and opened fire on them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and there was no one to fight back.
Right. So, I mean, these people that are asking to be disarmed or that everybody else be disarmed has no idea or are evil in what they're doing. They either have no common sense or they're pure evil because they know what will happen if that does.
Yeah, it cannot be anything like it's either stupidity or evil intent, and it can't be anything in between. I just want to really quick hit this before the break because I think a lot of people are feeling this, and we need to get this out. I just found a write-up by a gentleman by the name of Dean Garrison entitled, "If they come for your guns, do you have a responsibility to fight?" And this gentleman, this was published yesterday, and just very quickly here, he writes, and folks think about this, because you are going to have to confront this in your own mind. If you have weapons and they come for your guns, do you have a responsibility to fight? We as Christians and we as gun owners and we as people of constitutional value have thought about this. Well, he says, look, I feel tremendous responsibility, right? Although I'm a little bit apprehensive about doing so. Thinking about the possibility of rising up against our own government is a frightening thing for many of us. And believe me, I'm with you there, buddy. And he says, I'm not Johnny Rambo. And I'd be the first one to admit that I don't want to die. The reason I feel compelled to write this, however, is simply because I don't think the average American is equipped with the facts.
I mean, to interrupt you, I want to add to that. The mental capacity and common sense.
Right.
Well, it's more than just a lack of facts. These people are not thinking on their own. They are being brainwashed, manipulated, and controlled through their TV screen.
And I'm telling you, this is how the control is going to be much worse. They're going to be twisting your arm mentally like you can't believe. But he writes this. He says, I feel that a lot of American citizens feel that they have no choice but to surrender their guns if the government comes for them. That's his opinion. I don't know about that. I blame traditional media sources for this mass brainwashing. I carry the responsibility of all small independent bloggers to tell the truth. So my focus today is to lay out your constitutional rights as an American, let you decide what to do with those rights. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here it is. He said, about a month ago, I let the democracy word slip into discussion with a fellow blogger. I know better. Americans have been conditioned to use this term. It's not an accurate term. And it never has been a correct term to describe our form of government, which is true. We don't live in a democracy. If we did, think about this. 2 guys and a woman in an elevator. They take a vote to rape the woman. What's the vote? 2-1. The woman loses. That's a democracy by definition. Okay, do you want to live in a world like that? Do you want to be in that elevator? I don't think you do. But the truth is the United States is a constitutional republic. All right. If you are religious, you might choose to think of it this way. Say that members of your congregation decide that mass fornication is a good thing. I don't quite understand where he's going with this, but okay. Do they have the right to change the teachings of your God? The truth is the truth, and it doesn't matter how many people try to stray from it. And did I just compare our founders to God? In a way, I did. But please note that I'm not trying to insult anyone. The purpose of the American government and our Constitution founders who wrote it are much like God is to believers. It's the law. It's indisputable, and he compares that to the Bible kind of thing. So don't take that the wrong way. I see where the guy is going with this. But he writes that in 2012, in 2013, we're seeing evidence of what Franklin was trying to tell us. Just because the majority of people may support certain ideas, it doesn't mean that those ideas are just. In simple terms, just because most Americans love our president and voted for him, it doesn't mean that he's got the power to go against our Constitution. And he's correct in that, isn't he? The text of the Second Amendment is pretty clear. It's the law of the land. So when Feinstein or Obama talk about taking your guns, you need to think. Are they honoring their oath to uphold the Constitution? Well, I don't think so. That's just me now talking. But a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state is the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I mean, that's pretty clear to me, folks. It took 232 years for the Supreme Court to even rule on this amendment because it was never successfully challenged. But in 2008, a case of Columbia versus Heller, and we talked about this case when Keith Hansen was on, ruled that a handgun ban in D.C. was unconstitutional. And you've got to take that into consideration. The Supreme Court, currently anyway, supports your right to own guns. For those who try to debate the spirit of the Second Amendment, they're truly no different from people who will try to take biblical quotes out of context. And you folks, you know better than any other audience in the world what that's all about, to support immoral decisions. The strongest reason for people to retain the right and keep to bear arms is, as a last resort, to protect themselves against tyranny in government. That's quoted by Thomas Jefferson. Folks, I know we're up against the top of the hour break, and we're going to take it now to satisfy those who are streaming our show.
When we come back, we're going to get into some news. I have an interesting piece from the book I read from earlier on the general problem of resistance in a totalitarian regime. Who are the resistors? And also, your phone calls the second half of the hour and for the rest of the show. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We'll be right back.
Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilida Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to tell you about, I want to speak to the Canadian listeners If you're in Canada, I've got something to tell you. I want you to check out our website, and actually a hunter's paradise. A company called Granlund Firearms. That's Granlund Firearms. They're located in Campbell River, British Columbia. Their website is granlundfirearms.com. Carly Granlund is the owner, and they've been in business for over 20 years in Campbell River, British Columbia, Canada. They provide all kinds of supplies and gear for hunters, including new and used rifles, shotguns, many brands. They've got Mossbergs and Marlins and Brownings and Weatherbys and Remingtons and so on. They're also a dealer of pellet guns and such, and ammunitions, reloading supplies, clothing, scopes, you name it, they have it. If you're a hunter, you need to visit Granlund Firearms of British Columbia. Truly a hunter's paradise. That's granlundfirearms.com. Granlund firearms.com. Tell them Doug and Joe sent you.
Hold on to your seat. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of this Friday edition, January 4th, 2013.
Free-for-all. A fabulous free-for-all Friday.
Yes, it is. And we are going to be taking your calls this hour. If you want, call in now at 661-244-9839. We're going to cover a couple items of news, and then we will go to your phone calls.
If you're new to the second hour, the first hour we made an announcement. Special Sunday program this Sunday from 9 to midnight. Steve Quayle and
a very secretive gentleman. I don't even know. I'm not even very familiar with
anyone who follows SteveQuayle.com knows this individual, Financial Insider. We're going to have a special program, Financial Insider, on Sunday.
Yeah, and this is going to be an excellent show. I typed in the chat. It might be one of the biggest shows we have, and it's going to be very interesting.
Indeed.
That will be from 9 to midnight Sunday night. Do not miss it, even if you're not here live. Archive it, download it from iTunes or podcast apps, whatever. You're going to want to listen to it, I guarantee.
Yes, and folks in the chat room and listening to this program, finally this weekend it does look like we are going to, both Joe and I are going to have the ability and time finally to address, to expand the website as we've been planning on doing so. So please bookmark HomelandSecurityUS.com. And also, as well, while you're doing bookmarks, we're going to have a special readers section in there, kind of a source area of library for important documents. Joe's been finding, I got to tell you something. If Joe was a dog, he'd be one of those dogs that, would sniff out papers, because he finds so many of these documents, man. He showed me a document today that we're not ready to read it on air, but
no, we haven't dissected it.
Holy cow! You remember Stan Dale last night talking about lighting as a weapon?
Yeah, I posted the article in the chat, and let me read you just the title of this document, and I'll post it in the chat, and I hope everybody bookmarks it, goes through it, and we'll look at it, and we will report on it after we go through it ourselves. It's from the Department of Defense Interference Standard, Electromagnetic Environmental Effects Requirements for Systems. And let me just give you a couple of the subheadings, because when I read these,
sounds like science fiction.
Yeah, I was like, what?
He showed me, and I thought, seriously, folks, I thought he was spoofing me. I really did. I thought he just...
lightning as a weapon?
Lightning as a weapon.
High-power microwave sources.
Look, I've seen, Joe, I got to tell you this. When I worked in emergency, in EMS, I saw two people get struck by lightning. Okay, and it's not a pretty sight. And let me tell you, and neither one survived. And let me tell you, the one well, I don't even want to describe what happened, but holy cow! Yeah. Lightning is a weapon.
Lightning's direct effects on the environment. Lightning's direct effects as a weapon. It gets into a lot of EMP EMP talk. A new term I think new for me is a EIP weapon. They have subsystems and equipment electromagnetic interference. That's one of the I'm reading the subsections of what they have in this document.
Yeah, it's so difficult to really wrap your mind around this.
Implementation of these antennas. They say implementation of antennas, and it just goes on and on. I'm not going to get into it, but external RF EME. I mean, there's an EMI. I don't know what this stuff is, but they are, and this is one document talking about electrical.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I have another document that talks about the same thing, only on a different level, with interfering with people's communications, with radio shows maybe like ours and other people's that they're trying to quiet down. But this is I have not gone through this whole document, but they talk about, maximum effect for an EME from a space shuttle launch, or space shuttle systems, or from a Navy ship, or from flying aircraft, or maybe even making lightning strike where they want to in order to neutralize a threat.
You know what, Joe, after looking at this and seeing what's out there, I really believe, and folks, you can even chime in on this, but I believe that in 2013 we're going to see, now that after, and I'm trying to get a gentleman, or there's dialogue with a gentleman who's got a website, and I'm not going to, he's really not giving me any permission, but to mention, but the inauguration, when you look at the inauguration of Obama this time, and you look at certain factors that relate to this, the bottom line here is we're going to see a totally different administration. Don't compare Obama's second 4 years with his first, because the second 4 years is going to...
He had to protect himself to be real. I mean, he couldn't go too far out on a limb, otherwise people would call him, extreme, or he could give himself... I mean, I don't know how he got reelected, if the election was honest, which I don't believe any election's honest, but...
no, I don't believe this one was.
I didn't see how there was a chance he could be reelected after all the promises he made, and every promise he made that he was going to fix things, he made everything 10 times worse.
I had a conversation with someone, too, that within the intelligence venue, and he said this. Now, please, folks, when I say this, boy, I've got to, really have, all kinds of disclaimers here. First disclaimer is this. I'm repeating what I heard, what was said to me. That's number one. The person that said this to me has no direct knowledge about anything. This is a mere feeling, a mere thought, a mere, just what he believes based on his assessment of things. He said to me that he does not see Obama finishing his second term. I don't know whether that means impeachment. I don't know what that means. I don't. But if you think about this, is that possible? Sure, it's possible. Is that going to change the course, the direction of the country? I don't think anything will change the course or direction of the country at this point. I think we're beyond that point. Short of an organized march on Washington with a level of seriousness that this country hasn't seen in a couple 100 years. That's the only way this government's going to get changed. The direction of the country is going to get changed. That, and of course, the spiritual change that people have to adhere to or undergo. Short of that, I don't see any other way. But I just want to share that with you because I don't have any firsthand information about this other than what this gentleman said. And that was his assessment. And sure, there was discussion about what it was based on and what have you, but just take it for what it's worth. Do I think it's possible? Of course I do. It's possible with any president. It's possible with anybody. Of course it's possible. But wouldn't that be a game changer, perhaps? I don't know. I mean, do I put much stock into it? Look, I don't know. But I wanted to share that with you only because that's our job, to share information we get, little tidbits we get here and there. So,
and we have to share them. And one thing that we've been talking about here is the amount of focus that we have to use to discern what is important in the news, what needs to be broken down, what doesn't need to be broken down, because there is so much deception
exactly.
everywhere in the news, and what is important and what is not important. And it's very difficult sometimes because, you know, you see something like Sandy Hook and you see all these crazy inconsistencies, but are they taking our mind away from something else while they're still completing and pushing their agenda along with things like that? There are more important things that need to be discussed.
Yes.
You know, why has the mainstream news media, why don't they never talk about spiritual issues? I was just thinking about that, and I already know the answer, but it's just some thought that popped into my head the other day. You never hear any pundit refer to the Lord Jesus Christ as the solution, ever.
Well, no, of course not.
Why is that? And these are people who call themselves Christians.
But see, not even in the news format, but the Sunday talk shows, for example. Why couldn't they discuss that? The spiritual deficiencies in America, and going back to the Bible and the Word of God. Why not make that part of your Sunday morning panel discussion?
Yeah, and I got some things here I wanted to discuss on an old book that actually I took from my dad a couple of years ago. It's called Following Jesus.
It makes some
very excellent.
Actually, that's the book that you try to rewrap and give to me for Christmas.
No, it makes great points. They have like a bunch of parts, like 7 parts, one for each day that you're supposed to read before you get into what actually Jesus did and said when he was here on earth. And we're going to get into some of that later. Let's go to the phones, because we have some people that have been on hold for a little while. And I don't have my fun phone sheet with me.
So we're just going to dial for dollars here, or answer for dollars, I suppose, or whatever they call that.
I'll tell you what, I'm not even going to look for it.
All right, let's just be on the wild side here on this freaky, fabulous, free-for-all Friday. Let's just do it.
Okay, we're going to go to 304 first. 304, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
You're up, 304.
Hello?
Yeah, you're up.
All right, guys. Hey, it's good to hear you again. I just had a point. It's kind of I don't know. I was listening to Rick Wiles, and it's just we have. I know I'm the same like you guys. You just have this feeling that something is changing, and like doors are being opened up. Things are happening in the spiritual realm as well as the physical realm. The physical realm is just a manifestation of what's happening in the spiritual. And there's war going on above us, on this earth, and below this earth.
Caller, wait. Please say that again. About the physical being the manifestation of the spiritual. Please say that, because I think that's so important for people to hear.
Well, what's happening in the spiritual is just a manifestation. I mean, here in the physical is just a manifestation of what's happening in the spiritual realm all around us. And, I mean, the war is going on. It's raging. And we are, on the physical, we're getting caught in the middle of what has been going on for a long time. But we are seeing the ending of this war, and we are in the middle of it. I listened to Rick Wiles last night, and this inauguration, there's 2 inaugurations that are happening One is on Sunday, on the 20th, and then they're going to have a public one on the 21st. Now, what do you think is going to happen behind those closed doors in the White House? Inauguration Day. What kind of ceremony do you think is going to happen?
Well, caller, let me ask a question. Don't they set this up where they're? I mean, it can't be totally private, can it? In other words,
it's a private ceremony. I know he has his people coming, but they're chosen people to be there at that time. It's not open up for just everybody. I believe it's going to be a satanic ceremony.
Huh.
I believe they're going to open up, like you said, the next 4 years. They're going to be nothing like the first 4 years. They are opening up doors that aren't. It's not going to be. You can't go back from them. Once they're opened up, they're opened up.
I agree. Yeah, but now back to the inauguration, the private inauguration. It still has to be documented by photographers, the White House historian photographers, and
and last time
people.
They screwed up and they did another private inauguration afterwards.
Yeah, but I see where you're going with this because I'm uncomfortable. Now I know it's law. There is a law that does govern if the inauguration day falls on a Sunday. There's a specific law that says, well, okay, the public can, it gets split somehow, and I can grab. I pulled it up, I don't know, a week ago, and I don't have it in front of me. But that aside, what are you saying though with this? You think it's going to be it's going to kind of kick off the? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think I think this is the kickoff to some real satanic oppression, for all the things that are going on within people. They want to be told what to think. They want to be told how to feel. They want somebody to tell them everything's going to be okay. Well, they're opening this guy up, and he does it all the time. I mean, look at the people that said, there's my Messiah. There's my leader, like Hitler. There's the guy. That's the man. And he does not tell them not to. Like what happened in Israel at the time of Jesus with Herod. His people were telling him the same thing. You're God. You're Messiah. You're the God here on earth. And he never told them. He never told them not to do that. And you know what? He ended up with a belly full of worms.
That's true. And is not Obama trying to be the Pharaoh?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought.
And you guys talk about some hard things sometimes, and some real hard things for people to grasp. And I know it's not easy. And I listened to the whole program last night, and these are not easy subjects with gun control, with all of it, with social upheaval, social mind control.
Yeah, there's spiritual
forces that people are facing.
You're right.
Things.
Very difficult, and I got to tell you, we, obviously all the time we pray prior to going on the show, but we find ourselves praying for discernment when we do the research because this stuff is heavy it's intellectually heavy and it's spiritually heavy. And caller, I got to tell you, if people are not, you can have a basement full of food, ammunition, guns, whatever. But if you're not spiritually prepared for what's coming, that's going to hit you upside the head like a 2x4.
Especially if what we are facing is judgment for this nation, which I do believe this nation, for all of its just kicking God out of everything, and then taking this man and putting him up as God. What do you think the God of heaven really thinks about that?
Oh,
and we reelected this man.
None too happy. Yes.
No.
Yes, I agree.
And he just may be part of the judgment. So, I don't know. You're right. If you could have everything in the world, but when everything is just taken away from you, all your basis for, your retirement, your job, your family, and
that's right.
the people that you love have been taken away, and you don't have anything. And what do you have? If you don't have faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, and you're not on His rock, you're not going to be. You're not going to stand. You either stand on His rock, because His rock's not going to shake.
Exactly.
Everything else is going to shake, but His rock's not going to shake.
That's exactly right. And isn't it something, caller, that grown men and women can sit down and have a conversation about this? As well they should, as well we should. But it's great to be able to talk about this intellectually and about our spiritual health and the connection to God without being ashamed. And I know there are people who are ashamed to talk about stuff like this.
Ashamed and embarrassed, even though they believe or say they believe in the Lord.
Oh yeah, we can't talk. I mean, I don't wear my faith on my sleeve. Oh, why not? But,
and to your point, caller, in Luke chapter 20, it talks about all the things that are going to happen at the end times when Jesus says what will come to pass. And he gets into the nation rising against nation and the earthquakes, but he says, but before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before the kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it goes on to talk about these days are of vengeance, and all things which are written will be fulfilled. And it talks about, and he shall be betrayed by both parents and brethren, and kinfolks, and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. Talking about that division that they are bringing, the spiritual division. There's in so many households that we were going to do a show on that tonight, and we didn't get into that too much. But our spiritual division in each and every one of your guys' families and friends, I know it's probably increasing.
Yeah, caller, are you experiencing any of that spiritual or I don't need, it doesn't even have to be spiritual, but
I've had that. I had it happen not too long ago. My fiance, she up and left. She didn't like what I listened to. She didn't like, because I basically turned off the TV. I don't want to be polluted with a bunch of garbage. I have a hard enough time on my own without the pollution of the sickness that's in the air. And the TV is the main culprit. It's the biggest mind-washing, mind-control tool ever devised by anybody. And it's being used fully.
I agree.
People don't even know they're connected to it. That's what determines what they believe. That's what determines how they feel on a collective level. And it's never been done before.
I'm sorry to hear about your breakup, but I think that at this point in time, our survival is going to depend upon being with like-minded people who are spiritually in tune with one another and on the same page.
I realize, and I do believe, the Lord has His ways, and He gives and He takes away. I mean, for me, I know it was the best. It hurt because I dearly loved her, and I still do. But I know that what she wants in her life and what I want in my life are just two different things. You can't be unequally yoked. And I think Steve Quayle, he brought that out in one of your shows, that it was happening to other people too. And it was about that time that, it happened to me too. So, and I understand that the Lord, my thing is, I go to church on Sunday morning, and I'm there with my mom, and I'm there with my brother, and my brother's the pastor, and I sing with him. And my main thing that I do during the week is right there Sunday morning to worship. I've always been a worshiper, and I could have been a rich man if I wanted to worship somebody else. I never did.
Right. Well, you said a lot, and I think that let me tell you something, caller. I've got this yesterday morning, I think it was, or the morning before. When I got to my office, I opened up my email and looked, and 2 back-to-back emails were from people saying that they are now no longer welcome. One was from a woman who said, "I'm no longer welcome in my son's home." We talked, we opened the discussion about politics, and it was so sad to see the division. And the second one was from a young man. I don't know how old you are, but probably I would say about your age, whose wife said, "You know what? You're crazy, and you need to seek medical help if you think that things are bad, because they're not bad. Look around. There's nothing wrong." And he went to great pains to talk about the spiritual element that they were discussing, but 2 different levels. I mean, just on 2 different pages, and so many. I've never gotten emails like this. We've never gotten calls like this. The spiritual division is so prevalent. We're being divided. Yes.
But God is going. This is the important thing about what you guys do. I've been listening to you for a while now, but I feel like you guys are my friends, and you just have that community aspect about your show that no one else does. I mean, everybody else is like professional, and I'm not saying that you guys aren't, because you guys, really, I've read your writing and everything, and you are as professional as anybody else. It's just that you have a different spirit about you.
Wow. Well, thank you.
You have a spirit of compassion and spirit of just the kind of spirit that we need in this day, that we don't have enough in this world of.
Well, I'll tell you.
A community, a spirit of understanding.
We try. And I'll tell you, the last thing we are professional talk show hosts, as you can tell by the way we sound. But
yeah, as we said before, we never set out to do this, right. And I understand why we're doing what we're doing now. I didn't, when we started. But I appreciate your kind words, but we got to give all the glory to the Lord, because who knows where we would be without His blessing.
Absolutely. That's the important thing.
It is the important thing. You guys, but just keep up the good work, and believe me, there are people out there listening, and you're needed, and you are appreciated.
Well, God bless you, caller.
And I may not be able to appreciate you in financial ways, but you know what? I can pray for you.
That's okay.
I can, I can listen and be uplifted by what it is that you guys do, because you just don't find in this world too many places that you can go to be uplifted spiritually.
Well, you're always welcome here, and we hope to always be able to nourish your spirit in the best way we know how, and that's just it's not us, it's the Word, and that's it. So, God bless you, my friend.
Okay. God bless you, too. You guys have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You too. Thanks for the call.
Bye.
All right. We're going to go on here to area code 619. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello?
Yeah, you're up.
Hi, guys. This is Eugene Irvin. Am I on the air?
You're on the air. You're live on the air on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Pleasure to be on the air. It's my privilege and pleasure. You know, a lot of stuff to talk about. Everything that I hear on the show, the guy is right. You guys do have this spirit, and that's something that I've had trouble discerning myself. You know, I've tried to bring various things to people's attention, and you know, I would say it's my strong contention that mind control is dismissed because of its effectiveness. It's all around us, as you guys know. And, you know, one of the things that I would really like to bring to light is the fact of you know, microwave towers on public school property, particularly in minority schools. I think that this is a very physical example of time control, or mind control, excuse me. And if people can understand that, hopefully they can actually hopefully it can help facilitate an awakening. I didn't mean to enter. Well, go ahead. What do you have?
No, I just wanted to tell you we came across a document. I don't know if you were listening. It talks about electrical, how to use electronics, lightning, different microwave frequencies, and in the document it talks about the placements of antennas, antenna installation.
Including cell phone towers.
And I don't know if you're in chat. I'll post a link in chat. If you're not, you can find the document. It is entitled, it was just released a day or two ago by the Department of Defense, and it is entitled Electromagnetic Environmental Effects Requirements for Systems.
And look, we understand where you're going with this, and you do champion the cause for cell phone towers and you know, their placement near the schools and what have you, and we think it's an important topic.
They're also churches are selling their old bell towers to put cell phone towers in there.
Yes, and we think it's an important topic.
And here's what we know. You know, I'm not in the chat, but I'd refer anybody to the official Department of Defense document released in, I think, '67. And you know, to take that into the proper context of the time frame really speaks a lot of what we see presently, and that is simply, you know, this document's called The Development of Weaponry for Psychological Warfare, and you know, it gets into the flicker rate, inaudible transmissions via, you know, microwave broadcast, and you know, the silent sound subliminal system. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's, you know, you could Google just the 4 S's or type in, you know, the sounds of silence.
Right.
And, you know, when it gets to the part in this document where it says that they're steering subjects in real time via inaudible microwave transmission, gentlemen, I'll be digesting that statement for the rest of my life. I mean, you know, literally making people doing things that seemingly of their own volition, which are, synthetic telepathy, maybe you've heard the term. It is a reality. It is definitively shown to be effective in human beings, and it has been implemented globally to such a large scale. The sheer magnitude of it basically makes it incomprehensible to people when you have this normalcy bias and all these other things. And when we're looking at a public that is walking around in post-hypnotic suggestion, literally due to flicker rate, chemical, salt, BPA, fluoride, lithium, I mean, the list goes on and on. And so, again, mind control is dismissed because of its effectiveness. And to touch on the Nazi subject, you know, it's clear that, you know, there had been a Nazi faction that had infiltrated this country and has continued to the present day. And we are still warring with this. You know, the people that have the audacity to put the runways in the shape of a swastika at a major airport with these murals that are dedicated to the New World Airport Commission and all of these things, this is the blatant mockery of the human race, and these are the racist faction, clearly. And, you know, I sent you guys a video of a school. It's the largest elementary school in the Dallas Independent School District in Texas, and it's named after, you know, perhaps the best-known Holocaust victim out there that left a diary, her name Anne Frank. And
right.
This school is named Anne Frank, minority school. It boasts a microwave tower on the playground, guys, okay? And when I say it's dismissed because of its effectiveness, certainly tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people have driven right past this thing for years, okay? And it doesn't raise an eyebrow. Let me tell you something. If my children if I had a child, and they were going to a school with a microwave tower and the basketball court, I'm going to say something. And the fact that this is not an issue is a big deal. And there are some movements out there that do that. One of them is called PAX, led by a lady that basically, her husband was a major in the Army. And these things do cognitive disruption, and that's one of the applications that the military had used them for. I mean, we have to remember, we got the microwave in our kitchen because it was initially researched and developed by the military. It was used as a weapon, and it still is today. And the problem is this. You have this globally implemented system that, is multi-arrayed. It can disrupt the avionics of incoming ballistics, for example. You put fine particulates of heavy metals in the atmosphere through chemtrailing, and then it's adhering to this electromagnetic frequency. Guys, that's a force field. Okay, I don't know if you've heard that before, but basically that's a bubble, and it's really rudimentary. It's going to disrupt avionics of incoming ballistics, and basically, I watched I'm sure you guys heard about the missile that flew over Denver the other week. Meanwhile, there's drone. It was on the front page of the paper. In Denver, the Denver Post, a drone almost collides with a commercial aircraft, for Christ's sake. So people just don't even understand what's going on around them, and it's so hard sometimes to have compassion on them and to understand ways in which to really reach them. And to do that with a physical example, I believe, is a key thing to do. And the work that you guys do is amazing. And the fact that you know Jesus is even more amazing. I'm not ashamed to admit that I believe Jesus Christ here in the flesh. In fact, I know it. And it's sad to consider, guys, that it's a blasphemous thing amongst most Christian circles to consider that there will be men on this earth who will do even greater works than Jesus did. And in fact, I had to really wrestle with this. Are you guys there still?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I agree. I mean, they have to perform these signs and wonders.
Well,
yeah.
It's in red letters. It's in red letters in the Bible. It says that it's John 14:12, and it says that there will be men on this earth who will do even greater works than I did. And if anybody wants to be a biblical literalist and not take that in the proper context, all I can do is pray for them at this point, because I believe that the second coming of Christ comes back through the body of Christ. And gentlemen, that is us. Steve Quayle is one of the only noted people in the public mind that I've ever heard understand what the word church actually means, and that is basically, the called out ones, or the called out. And when we understand that radically changes the entire meaning of where we are right now. It doesn't mean book. It doesn't mean building, and it's written on our hearts. And so to overcome these things, we live, you can go see a zombie apocalypse preparedness warning on an official, government website. The CDC's website is, quote, a humorous feature. And on that same website, you could see the statistical fact that we have less than 20 years, according to the CDC's own website, again with the zombie apocalypse preparedness kit on it. We have less than 20 years, guys, before every child in this country by age 8 will have autism. That is a statistical fact generated from the CDC's own numbers. And if people cannot wrap their minds around that, there has to be a reason. And it's because we are under assault. They are literally affecting the very hearts of men and women and children. This school, Anne Frank, under a national renovation project amongst schools, added a section to it with flags that are incorporated into the architecture. Okay, they're backwards flags. On the front of the school, they go the right way, the same way that we all, put our hand over our heart and pledge allegiance to in this country when we were children and an older generation. And this is a highly subjective, subliminal environment, and it's terrible what they're doing. And we see this, we've been documenting this specifically in minority areas and urban centers, and also particularly on minority schools. This is across the country. I talk too much, guys. Sorry.
No, well, I'll tell you what, caller. We've got a full bank of callers. I think you made your point pretty clear, and I think that people got the message. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep this in the forefront.
Yeah, and we should explore this more because there is something to this. I definitely understand the ramifications of this electromagnetic warfare.
It's called the Columbia Experiment. It's on YouTube. The physical examples of mind control. It shows a nanofibrous material that sits at the base of the human nervous system. That golden metal strips are encased in a nanofibrous material situated at the top of our necks. This is not just Columbia, but if you look at the insignia of that manufacturer, it's a swastika. It's the same thing that you'd see at DIA if you were flying over it in the runway. So, thank you for your time. God bless you guys. Nice to be with you, and thank you.
Good. Thanks for your call. Thank you very much for your call.
All right, guys.
Yeah. And one of the subliminal messages he talks about, the blatant symbology, is the upside-down cross on the back of the chair of the Pope.
You know, I never really got into that until you look at it. See, it's one thing for somebody to say, well...
I mean, that's in your face.
Yeah, but it's one thing to say it's their... deliberate, and it has a deliberate meaning, because I look at, for example, somebody designed our logo, for the Northeast Intelligence Network. Somebody had designed it, and at the time, in fact, if you go on HomelandSecurityUS.com, you can see where the meaning behind it. Okay, well, they're like 4 boomerangs, and one is red, and the other 3 are blue, and it was at the time. Okay, now, folks, at the time that I did this, that I asked this to be done, it represented the 4 planes, and the one being the one where the people fought back, allegedly, okay? So that was my mindset at the time. But since that time, I've received hundreds, if not thousands, of emails saying, well, that's really a hidden swastika. You're really, that's a swastika. That's no, it's not. It never was intended to be. Okay, so I could understand, the mindset, people looking at for example, the upside down cross on the Pope, and it's context. But when you look at that, Joe, which you mentioned,
and
context,
there's much more there.
Okay, yeah, you have to take it in the context. I understand that, and I'll tell you something. It's frightening.
I just don't understand. There's no logical reason. There's no.
Well, there is in the context.
You can't explain that away.
No, well, you can, but it's uncomfortable for people listening to it. Whereas our logo was,
you could explain it away, and you would be in trouble.
Yeah,
what they're doing is open mockery.
Yes, it is an open mockery, and it was intended as such, and that's see. That's my big thing with and folks. See, that's my big thing with this researching this Illuminati and this the global governance and these people behind this. Because once you start pulling at that thread, then you see, oh wow, wait a minute, there's like a whole bunch to this, and it gives you reasons for what's taking place today. That's kind of where I'm coming from. It's kind of like one big continuous crime scene that you're investigating, and that's kind of how I look at it. But go on. I know we got a full bank of calls.
Yes, we do. We have a lot of callers, and hopefully we can get to you all. We're going in order of time on hold, and Sheila is up next. Thanks for waiting, Sheila. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi, guys.
Good evening.
That was an interesting phone call.
Yes.
My son Matt used to build the cell phone towers. Now he's a supervisor for him, so I'm going to have to ask him about that, because he knows everything there is to know about what goes on in them towers.
Oh, they put
But anyway,
they disguise the trees as cell phone towers. They have buildings, billboards.
New Jersey, New York City, yeah. But Sheila, let me just say this, okay? How much more evidence do you need than this research done holding a cell phone up to, especially the older ones, up to your ear for long times? You get brain tumors. I mean, that's been documented.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah, so that said,
Well, I know when he used to climb, he didn't talk to me about it because it's a dangerous job. But I was saying that when they was doing whatever they had to do on top of the tower, they would have to turn their backs at a specific time because of the radiation. And I tell him, I don't want to hear anymore, If I don't know about it, it can't bother me. but he doesn't do that anymore. He's a supervisor now, so I'm going to have to ask him about that. I never heard tell of doing this where church bells used to be. That's, wow, you know.
Yeah, I have that article.
Wow.
I don't even know if I have it saved. Let me check. Yeah, there is churches are selling their old bell space for, they're renting out their steeples as cell phone towers. That's CBS News.
Unreal. You probably don't even realize, well, you'd think they would know, the government would know, you know, that with all that radiation it's going to do harm. I mean, even being around these big electrical towers, it ain't, you know, it's not a good thing. But I called to tell you something that I saw the other day, and it goes to you, Doug, when you was saying that, you know, somebody told you that Obama may not be there the whole term. Well, I was over on WMD, and I saw something off to the side, and it was this bunker that he's had built onto the side of the West Wing. Have you seen that?
I've heard about it. I'm not familiar with the article or the thing you're talking about.
Okay, well, see, this has been 2 years in the works, and when that started, people started questioning what they were doing there, because there was such a massive hole being put in.
Right.
And Obama tried to say it was cables being put on the ground. Well, that wasn't the case. And the other day when I was over on WND, I saw this thing, and it was connected to the White House. So I went over on YouTube and found it. And here it is. It's a bunker. There was this man dressed in a suit. Had no idea who he was, and you might have thought he was doing a tour in a museum or something. And he was showing the bunker, and the bunker's white, and it's got these fancy windows, and it's connected to the West Wing. And there's like 3 windows and it goes down into the ground. But he said, this is where the Obamas are going to be living for a year while they rework the White House. So I'm thinking, okay, last time I knew, the house belongs to the people. So what's he doing in there? Him and Michelle is going to be in a bunker for a year.
That's right.
Does that mean he's going to take? If you're going to take Abe out, Washington? You know, you got to wonder.
Well, you know, when I say that's right, I mean the house belongs to the people. It's our house. We're allowing him to live in that house. The White House is the house of the people, and I can't remember the last time a president you could walk up. Well, when I was a kid, I remember being able to almost walk up to the lawn of the White House.
And last time we went, we couldn't even get close to the street that used to be accessible.
So what is being done to our house, the house of the people? It's just ridiculous. I'm very interested in what is going on there with that construction. I do recall now a couple emails there, but you know, I'm not prepared to say what it is, but I want to know. We're paying for it, obviously.
This man wouldn't say. The man that was doing the talking, he wouldn't talk about that. So I don't know. I got a feeling, and we're looking at a dictatorship. I think he's arrogant enough to take anything out that resembles another president.
Well,
I do. I think he's going to change everything within that White House, and I got really ticked off when I seen a picture of him with his feet up on the desk in the Oval Office. And I found it really interesting that whoever the guy was that took that picture started at the soles of his feet.
You know something, Sheila, and this is something that really gets my goat, okay, folks? It really hacks me off. I don't know how else to say this. But let me tell you something. If I were in any way, shape, or form to serve in any capacity, even as an intern in the White House, of course those days are gone, I would have so much respect for the House of the People. Number one, I'd realize it's not my house. You know, I would not walk into that White House. I wouldn't put my, unless I was fully dressed in a suit, I wouldn't put my feet up on the furniture. I would treat it as I was a guest in someone's home for the 4 years or however long I would be there. And to see it, and I'd have to say it began with Clinton. I'm sure it happened throughout the multiple administrations, but really to the public with Clinton, the way they treated it like a frat house, that really upsets me. You know, it really does. And Obama, it's a little thing, right, Joe? I mean,
I could care less.
To me, you know, you wear jeans into the Oval Office, you should be slopped around. I mean,
the thing that bothers me about Obama and the White House is I've never seen him give an address from the Oval Office.
You know,
I don't know why.
No, we haven't.
That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I have not done that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Joe. I never thought of that.
But but yeah, look, it's Sheila. It's something that we're going to have to look into because that bothers me. It bothered me when I saw the reference to it and kind of a summation of it. Now your call reminded me of it. Joe and I will look into it and we'll report back what our findings are.
Watching this guy and listening to him, you know, I'm thinking, you know, you're a moron. Why aren't you asking questions here? You know, what's he going to do to our White House? He can get his feet off of the desk. The Queen Victoria gave the White House that desk many years ago. You know, he's an outright disgrace and he doesn't belong in there, and it's time to evict him, if we could.
Eviction, we have to, last I knew, eviction papers had to have the name of the person on it. We're not sure what his real name is. With that said, Sheila, God bless you. We're going to let you go. We got a full bank of callers.
And we're up against the break. God bless you, Sheila.
Love you.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
You know, Sheila's a great caller. She really is. She brings up some good points. And
absolutely.
I got to tell you something. You know, now that she mentioned that, and ladies and gentlemen, does that bother you a little bit? I mean, to me, it bothers me a little bit, only because, see, I don't think we have to really know. For example, the security, we don't have to know about that. But if there's something going on, like, you know, something really major, give us at least something. Don't lie. Just, I mean, tell us, look, yeah, it has to do with the security of the president, or it has to do with operational security, or it has to do with whatever. You don't have to give us details. Just tell us what it is. Or, hey, it could be a new pool room down there. Okay, I don't know. But
to me, it makes no difference. I could care less.
Well,
America's destroyed. They might as well bulldoze that place anyway.
But see, just okay, and I'm glad you said that. We
shouldn't even care about it.
No, I'm glad you said that.
We care about the spiritual, because things are moving very fast.
Yes,
things are getting very bad, and I understand. You know, 10 years ago, I would definitely agree with you. But now, it's not a concern. I do not care. I am caring less and less about anything that does not have to do with.
But hold on a second. Work with me on this for a second. As an investigator, think about you're working for a high price or an insurance company.
Okay.
And you get called out because there's a guy in a chair in an office with a bullet wound in his head, and the gun's down at the floor. The police are still there. This guy has a $5 million life insurance policy on him. We go there just to kind of investigate. We're along with the police, just to see what's up because of the life insurance policy. Just because the guy is dead, or just because, I guess that's kind of a bad analogy. But the fact of the matter is, do we stop our investigation because it's over? I mean, well, look,
let me give you this quote. For the wisdom of this world,
I jumped the track there.
For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. For it is written, He taketh the wise in their own craftiness. And again, the Lord knoweth the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. And when I say the wise, I'll give you an example here. People who explain away God, say Jesus never was on the earth, by using the Bible, right, with their degrees and with their, qualifications. claiming false things, teaching false religions, and I
understand that.
We're in a period of time right now. I've never felt the intensity, and it continues to grow.
Yeah, but I got you by a few years. And
right.
Okay, so
I've never been through. The Gulf War wasn't a war fought on American soil.
Right.
I don't think you've seen a war fought on American soil. The Civil War was 18. You got a couple years over that.
Careful now.
But no, seriously. What's the White House worth? If we could take it apart and give it away to people who don't have homes, I'd be happier than.
But, well, we're looking at the bigger picture. And Sheila has a good point. We're looking at the bigger picture, but the bigger picture is a mosaic of smaller pieces, is it not? Smaller pictures. When you look at a painting, like a painting of a landscape, that landscape is beautiful, and we're seeing the big picture. But every part of that landscape picture is its own element. And while we're looking at that big picture, is it not wise of us to look at the smaller elements that compose that bigger picture?
I agree. It is a footnote of many footnotes that should be there for people to look at. And I mean, not the White House or the way he treats it, but what he's doing with the position of the president. And, God appoints people. He uses sinners and non-sinners. He uses kings and small people to fulfill his purpose, whether it's to let people know that a certain time is near or whatever.
True.
But as far as the White House is concerned, looking at America and how much it's changed in the last 15 years and where we are today, America's dead, and that White House is useless. And we'll go to break with that. Folks, if you want to call in, 661-244-9839. We'll be taking calls all next hour. We'll be back after a few minutes. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Friday, January 4th, 2013. I almost said...
I thought maybe you were going to say like October 2nd or something like that.
No, I'm looking for the music to play us out. But, all right, guys, we'll be right back, taking your calls and much more.
If you're stumped, you don't know what kind of gift to give to a friend or a loved one, I'm telling you, you must go to 4physics.com. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. This is your one-stop shopping palace. That's the only way I can put it. I could spend easily an hour on this website. Innovative, fun, educational. There are games, books, weather instruments, unique time-telling devices, jewelry, optical devices, laboratory equipment. Let me give you an example. We all know we can tell time with a sundial. You've seen those advertised. Did you know that you could tell time by the stars? At 4physics.com, you can buy a horologium nocturnum. This was a navigational device used in the 15th century by navigators at night to tell time by the stars. It's beautifully crafted in the shape of a pendant made of bronze and pewter or gold and silver. Absolutely a stunning gift. I would be proud to give it to anyone. You must go to 4physics.com. Even if you're not stumped, that's 4physics. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. It's your one-stop shopping palace. Any problems that you have, I don't know what to get Grandpa, I don't know what to get my loved one, that's unique, you will find it at 4physics.com. Please take my word for it. Go to the website, but give yourself a lot of time because you're not going to want to leave. 4physics.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about just a super place, especially if you're in Canada, and especially if you're in British Columbia. A super place to get your hunting needs, your firearms, your ammunition, all sorts of supplies. It is Granland Firearms of British Columbia. It's a hunter's paradise. If you're familiar with British Columbia, if you're familiar with Campbell River, British Columbia. Sorry about that. I was looking at just a beautiful scenery here of the area of British Columbia, but the Granlund Firearms of British Columbia, they're located at 522 South Dogwood in beautiful Campbell River, British Columbia, Canada. That's a salmon capital of the world, and they're located on the southwest side of Dogwood, just south of Merecroft Street, across the street from the movie gallery. They're open they're open Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays only, or Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 12 noon to 7 p.m. Pacific time, and then Saturdays from 10 to 5 p.m. only. They're closed on Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays, but you can go to their website. It's GranlundFirearms.com. That's GRANLUND Firearms.com. They specialize in firearms, including rifles, shotguns, black powder rifles. They've got new and used hunting rifles. Anything you can think of, they've got. Shotguns, pellet guns, all kinds of brand names. And they carry all kinds of reloading supplies. If you're into that, if you're into reloading, no place better to get your reloading supplies than Granlund Firearms. So pay them a visit, GranlundFirearms.com. That's GranlundFirearms.com. And by the way, drop Carly an email. Check out their website. Drop Carly, the owner, an email and say that you heard about their shop on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Doug Hagmann. One guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our third and final hour of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this first week of January 2013. Today is the 4th. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping here. Don't forget, Sunday night we are having a special program, 9 to midnight Eastern Time, with Steve Quayle. And folks, another very special guest that you are not going to want to miss.
Oh, yeah. And if you could do us a favor, if you could spread that around Facebook, the article, go ahead and click on the article, like it, or even copy the URL and put it around Facebook, the social networking sites, because people really need to hear this Sunday.
And I really think that, and I don't know very much about this person. I understand, like what he does. I don't know who he is. I never talked to Steve about him. I have only read a few things. I've only heard just a few things said by other people. But this is going to be explosive. And
I think so.
It's going to go viral. I guarantee it's going to go viral. And even if it doesn't, that's fine, but we want people that want to hear this information. There are people that need to hear this information, and it's going to come out Sunday.
Yeah, and you know, I go ahead, Joe. I hurt in my heart for people who don't get it right now. I just do.
Yeah, and what we're going to do, I've received this clip many times in the last couple of days about a North Carolina police lieutenant warning of martial law in early 2013. I'm going to play this clip, and then we're going to go to phone calls for the rest of the show. It's only 5 minutes, but there's a purpose I'm doing this. Please listen closely to this caller and what he has to say. He called into some show.
Was it Alex Jones, I thought?
No, he replayed it.
Okay.
And that's what kind of got it circulating, I think. But listen to this call, and then I'm going to ask some questions when we're done. Here it is.
We'll take a caller now. We're going to take Lieutenant McCoy from North Carolina. I've asked the military and some police call in and talk to us tonight. Lieutenant, welcome to the program. Are you there? Are you there, my friend?
Yes, sir. I hear you.
All right. Now, you're a lieutenant in the police or the military?
The police department.
Okay, welcome. You been listening to the show for a while?
Oh, yes, sir, for years now.
Bless your heart. And what's your opinion?
Things are going downhill very quickly, sir.
What are you hearing from your superiors and what's coming down and what you're looking for?
Well, they're looking for it to happen, and they're training for it to happen.
Now you said training to take us down or training to defend us?
Yes, sir. Training to take us down. And
really?
Law enforcement here in North Carolina has started training with drones, military-operated drones.
Wow. Okay, they started training with military drones in North Carolina.
Yes, sir. That's correct, sir.
And your superiors are training the forces to take down the American people.
Yes, sir.
How are the forces responding to that?
Well, one of the main things that, and with the breaking news, that the ATF and the U.S. Marshal Service is recruiting from law enforcement agencies here in North Carolina.
They are, yes.
And what they're planning on doing is they'll get the local officers in with the ATF and the U.S. Marshal Service. Now, the payroll will come from the state, but the equipment will be issued by the federal government, all except for the vehicle, and that'll be a totally unmarked cruiser that'll be issued to them.
Wow. Okay, and the timeline, what do you expect to happen?
The training is going to start within the next week with the officers that volunteer to do this, and mostly the ones that volunteer are mostly the droid heads. That's what we call them anyhow.
Exactly, the ones who are gung-ho to anything they're told to do.
Yes, sir, and they're all pumped up. They're taking stuff to build their muscles artificially, and it's just unreal. I've been in law enforcement 31 years here, and I've never seen anything like it in my life.
What do you sense yourself?
I'm sorry, sir?
So what do you sense happening yourself? What do you sense, and what's your timeline you sense?
Well, I figure it's going to take them about 30 to 45 days to get everything in line. Now, we have our governor here in North Carolina is one of the governors picked by President Obama to take control under a martial law program.
Wow. And your personal opinion, Lieutenant, what are you going to do?
I'm going home.
You going home to protect your family?
Yes, sir. And that's what the Lord wants me to do, and that's what He says to do, and that's what I intend to do.
But do you expect some kind of movement then within the next 2 or 3 months?
Yes, sir, I do.
As far as?
I think they'll start to move, and they'll start picking out certain people and making confiscations and arrests.
Are they going to do that house to house, along the road, roadblocks, or what?
It'll be wherever they can catch the certain individuals at. They want to catch them at home where they can take their preparedness away from them.
And do you have any names been given to you yet?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you think the higher-ups know who it's going to be yet?
I think they do, yes, sir.
Interesting. Well, Lieutenant, if this is the last time you get to speak to the public, what would you tell them?
Trust the Lord and be prepared to defend yourself and your family.
Would you tell them it's time to buy an AR-15 for home defense?
I would say it is, and if you can find one.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And have you also told them to store up food, whatever? Do you see a crisis maybe economically coming?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I see, mostly the way I'm figuring it from the information that I've been able to gather is kind of going to come in all together at one time. So they can't blame the government, but they can blame us.
Oh, I see. So they'll collapse the economy on purpose to cause panic and then move in.
Yes, sir.
Now, are you hearing this personally, or you just kind of reading this out there?
This is personal information. This is not hearsay, sir.
So you've been told this?
Yes, sir.
One day soon, I'd like to talk to you off the air if you don't do that.
Yes, sir.
Would you mind giving my board op, Jamie, there your phone number?
Yes, sir. I will.
Jamie, would you get his phone number, please? And I appreciate it. Go ahead and put Darryl on the.
All right. Now, that was played and has been sent to me, and it's been around the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's not legit, but it reminds me of something. And those of you who have been listening to us for a while, I don't know if you remember, we got a phone call from a gentleman. It was just a regular day, and he called in and gave us a lot of precise information of similar things happening and time periods, and all of a sudden an email surfaced the next day from a government organization circulating around government circles talking about it. There was an article on Before It's News that actually displayed the email about the caller on our show. And I mean, I'll leave it to you for your discernment. I don't know for sure, but it just didn't sit right with me. I'm not saying the guy's lying or making anything up. I don't know. And when I hear people, saying it's going to be, this much time and this is what they're going to do, I mean, we know that they're going to use drones against us. They're going to have 30,000 drones in the sky. There's drones everywhere already in America.
Absolutely.
We know that they're going to clamp down in this country. We see it happening right now in front of our eyes. But regardless of that, whether you believe them or not, this stuff is happening.
Yep.
But we need to just look at what is coming out and being, pushed on us at some, I don't want to say pushed on us, but what is being, some things are just constantly, everybody sends you an email if certain stories happen.
Yes.
And this was one of those. So use your discernment. Listen to it a few times and use your discernment, because that could be completely off base.
My question, I mean, he came out of the box with he gave his name, I thought, did he not? I could be wrong. He said, this is Lieutenant so-and-so. And then, of course, the question was he military or police or military, and there was a kind of a awkward pause there.
Yeah, I guess I'm just very skeptical, but
I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me if things happen the way you said it did, because I know how fast things are moving. But we just have to be careful and take it for what it's worth.
But see, what if? And I compare this to like September 10th. If a caller would call into a talk show and say, well, you know what? That's even a bad example. This gentleman obviously is attempting to warn others that the plans are in motion, that martial law is going to take effect. And of course, how many times, how much stress can the American people take? Folks, how much stress can you take?
Yeah, and I want to add this, and we'll go to the phones. I was reading comments on somebody posted a YouTube video of the caller we got that I just was looking at like last night. Yeah. And there was all these comments about all these fear-mongering things that never come true. Like, there was no October surprise. I mean, things we never mentioned, things we never and I'm not saying we didn't mention the October surprise, but like they were throwing Nibiru in there and this YouTube video comment section.
Right. And there's always that.
But people don't understand, just because things don't happen the way even the people who think they know and tell people the way that, it might be different. And we, in my opinion, we did see an October surprise. We're still seeing it. Yeah. We have this whole economy situation. We can't even go back to the elections to see if there was. I mean, we know that there was reports of fraud, but we can't even get that straight. We can't even get the Aurora facts. I mean, things are moving so fast. We don't have time to focus on all this. We just know it's coming, and we know what we have to do.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, Joe.
We're going to go back to the phones. Let's see, area code 903. You're up next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Well, howdy, Doug. Howdy, Joe. This is Rusty Shackelford. I called the other night there when y'all did your kind of prediction show there, and I predicted 125 a barrel on oil, and that they would announce that we were going to be. Yeah. How y'all doing?
Very well, thank you. And yes, I recall that $125 barrel oil. Interesting.
And then I can see that. We were going to announce that we were energy independent. So I had a couple of things I wanted to throw in there. Had a big conference call today. Had a little chat with a bunch of the powers that be, and I'm going to make not a prediction, but I'm just going to kind of toss some stuff out there. There's going to be 2 big oil finds coming up here in the next probably 6 to 8 months. One of them's going to be in Nevada, and one of them's going to be in Michigan. And you're going to start seeing oil and gas production in those areas going strong. But I also wanted to toss in, because I kind of brought up a question today there with them. There's some pending executive orders about nationalizing the oil industry. And one of the things that come up on the conference call was what was going to happen with us guys that actually, we keep the oil flowing. And we were told that we would be part of the nationalization, that as an employee, we were considered an asset of the oil field industry, and that we would be nationalized along with all the equipment. So I just thought I'd toss that in there. Very interesting. They ain't going to nationalize me unless they can find me first, and they ain't going to find me. So I just thought I'd throw that in there for you.
Appreciate that. So nationalization.
West Texas. Yeah, well, there's an executive order, and I can't remember the number. I'd have to go look it up. But they're, in the event of a national emergency, the oil and gas industry would be one of the first to be nationalized under the executive order, and that one of the assets of the oil and gas industry is also labor. And they ain't nationalizing me, man. It ain't happening. There's a big desert out here. They got to find me first.
Well, interesting. Boy, that opens up an entire line of questioning that I have that is well beyond the scope of the call. But it wouldn't surprise me if they did nationalize the energy sector, especially with the backdrop of what's going on in the Middle East right now. And just think if something happened where the free flow of oil would be impeded, our dollar would take a hit. And I don't think even with nationalizing it would be too late, too little, too late, and our dollar would still collapse even with a nationalization. But it would be a good move, though, to do that.
One thing folks don't realize is this industry is a lot bigger than what a lot of folks realize. There's approximately 10 million people that work in this industry, and it's I'm not bragging, but the lowest of the low in this industry out here in the exploration end of stuff, I mean, it's $100,000 a year job. I mean, we all make that kind of money out here. It's a six-figure job. They would love to get their hands on this kind of money that's coming in. Now, I don't know really want to take on the oil and gas industry because of the amount of money and the amount of power that these big companies hold. But we were absolutely told that should that executive order be put into place in the event of a national emergency, that labor is considered part of the resources of the oil and gas industry, and that my butt would be out there working for the government. And, in general, I've kind of brought it up with some of the guys that work for me, and they're pretty much in the same line of thought as I am, that they ain't working for no government. It's not going to happen. We're pretty independent folks out here. So I just thought I'd toss that at you. I'll try to keep you updated on stuff as I get the information. But that's where we're standing right now with stuff.
Rusty, appreciate the call.
I have no idea. All right, y'all have a good one, and I appreciate you letting me call in. Adios.
All right, absolutely. God bless, man.
Anytime, Rusty.
What I said it would be a good idea. It'd be a good idea from the standpoint of a tyrannical approach, or a socialization or a communist takeover type thing to nationalize the energy sector. And that was contained, I believe, in the executive order that also spoke about the roads and the bridges. I mean, it was all encompassing in the event of a national emergency of taking over everything. So,
just real quick before we go back to calls, referring to the caller that called into our show, it was from July 6th on the article from Before It's News, from a call on July 5th. It is. Yeah, I still have the article here. The guy called in, I think, 73 minutes into the show. These were his predictions. The next step will occur very soon. There's going to be a tipping point. All communications will be cut. The U.S. will go to war with Iran in October. There will be no elections. And that was the information that was given to us on a call, and that circulated in a government email like it was a test. You remember that?
Yeah, and that's right. We talked about it after the show. Wondering, because that came out of left field, and
I'm not trying to cast doubt on the North Carolina gentleman, because I don't know, but we have to watch for this.
Yeah,
because they could be diverting our focus.
See, and that's it.
People are so focused on this world and what's in this world and what's going to happen to this world. Well, we already know.
That's true.
It's already written and done.
Interesting.
So, all right, we're going to move on here. Let's see. Area code 970. We're coming to you next. Thanks for holding. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello, guys.
How you doing?
Well, I'm not bad. Hey, I just wanted to point out something. I know it's backing up a little bit. I wanted to talk about the Holmes shooter.
Yes.
In Aurora. I live in Colorado, and I went to that movie that night at a local theater with my kids, and I was up, by the time it got done, it was a midnight movie, midnight showing, all that. I was up that morning when they were showing it, so I was watching the initial, just like the Sandy Hook, and there's so many things going on, and then all the story changes, okay? So, I tell people that if a disaster or something happens, turn on as many VCRs, recorders you got, and record it all so that you can see how the story changes. Now, you guys are in investigation. You understand that there people can be under duress and not get things right and whatever. But still, the seeing the stuff, the cops, the moving around, all the multiple people talking about, a couple of shooters, whatever. That can't be that much confusion. But my main point is that if this guy was a nerd and he was into this and whatever, the Joker does not have orange hair. He has green hair.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. There was one.
Would not get that detail wrong.
Yeah, there was one.
Kid would not get that detail. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, there was just one scene in the movie where he changed the hair color in the previous movie, and I forget exactly. It was just a very short scene. I know exactly what you're talking about, and that was not the hair color that he had, as always. And that was the color that they said that that's what the Aurora shooter had.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is why? Is because they don't sell green hair dye. The people that doped this kid up didn't have green hair dye. You can get green hair spray, but the stuff washes out. So once he was in jail, he took a shower, then he doesn't look goofy and crazy anymore. They dyed his hair orange when he was doped up so that it would stay orange. So he would be goofy and crazy and help sustain the story, see?
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
And this plays into what I think is the focusing on all these details of, getting, and people do and can go through all this stuff, and as long, I just have a problem with, there's so many that lack the spiritual foundation, the real spiritual foundation, and there is fear and panic in the air, and just by reporting on the news, it's almost like we're spreading fear because the news is so dreadful, and people are feeling hopeless, and people are getting lost in all this confusion, and it just bothers me so much. And until we lay that groundwork, I think, I know.
But I understand that, Joe. But what this caller is saying, though, is this little detail, I think, is important with respect to
just like the rifle they pulled out of the trunk of the car that they said was used in the school shooting. Yeah. And it's not, I'm starting to think it's not an accident they do this stuff. It's to create the confusion.
That or they're sloppy. But either way, no, I'm with you. We have the playbook, the Bible, and it tells us who wins, us. But we can kind of use it, I tell my friends, we can use it kind of like the TV guide. As you see these things happening, you can go back and look at previous episodes and go, okay, well, this means that this, and you can kind of piece it together, not to be afraid, but to see how the things are going to happen. Like once Damascus goes. I mean, that's in the Bible. Once that goes,
Correct.
Okay, then that's proof. I've been talking with my son about a lot of this, and he's 14. I'm trying not to scare him, but I'm trying to let him know, because my ex-wife, she wants to take all the warm and fuzzy things out of the Bible, the good stories, and the we'll wind up in heaven and all this. But you can't just do that. The other part of this, if there's a heaven, there is a hell.
That's right.
And if there is good, there is evil. And if there were good things that happened back then and bad things, then good things and bad things are going to happen now.
Absolutely.
Especially bad things. We are in, like Mr. says, we're in a time where it is talked about more in the Bible than anything else.
Yes.
When it talks about we are approaching that time, and the better we see and understand, we nitpicking on some details, we do that, but it helps us to fill in the picture of knowing what the Bible is saying and doing. And then real quick, I want to say something else. Everybody arguing about the Second Amendment and the rights and all that, that all goes out the window if there's martial law. That's why Bush and all them or whatever, they're saying it's just a piece of paper. It ain't worth it, it ain't worth the paper it's written on, or it's junk, because they're going to trash it. That is a signal. They're going to trash it. Your rights come with, all these things mean nothing when they enforce martial law. That's why I'm not a member of the NRA anymore, because I asked them, what can you do when they enforce martial law? You can yell all about the Second Amendment you want. You can yell about representation. I want my lawyer. I want too bad. You're gone. You're this. You're that. None of those rules matter.
Well, we're in kind of a de facto martial law right now, to the extent, and look, maybe that's a harsh statement, but when you start at airports, you've got no Fifth Amendment rights. You've got essentially,
that's to desensitize us for what's coming. That's
correct.
Slowly eroding at it and whacking away at it, so that when it comes down to it, when it goes, it goes. It's like when the housing crisis was around. You heard about people losing their house down the street or around the block or in another state. And then it was a little, it started out, this state's bad. And then, this state's bad. And then this state's bad. And then somebody down the street that's bad. And then so when it finally happens to you, it finally happened to us. It's
very, very good.
Just like the video games.
You're absolutely correct. It's all about control, conditioning,
I mean, it's amazing how they promote the violence in the movies and the video games, yet condemn the owning of guns. And, we can go through the statistics of how many people get killed by cars, how many people drown, get electrocuted, get shot. But when it comes down to it, it's just a complete common sense from the people, and it is because they are too busy with the day-to-day things of life. Like it says in the Bible, they were in the days of Noah, they were marrying, they were partying, they were doing what they do on a daily basis. Too busy, too entwined with their own lives to worry about what was going on around them.
Right, but you know what happened with Noah, though? He built that for 120 years, took him a long time to build it. But I don't think the animals were gathered around him the whole time. I think he built it for X amount of years and whatever, and towards the end, the animals started coming in. So then
that's a
he
good
must
point.
have known something, or he figured out something. They didn't just show up and go, "We're here." In 20 minutes, all these huge animals from all over the world, or that part of the world, but whatever, they didn't just show up and board in 5 minutes, and then it started raining, and they took off.
That's a very good point.
There was something building up to that. No, there was something building up to that, and he started, I'm wondering. He's getting closer to getting it done, whatever, plus animals started showing up, whatever. They had to load them. Didn't happen in 5 minutes. So there were signs that were prepping him. He didn't know how bad it would be, or maybe how, or exactly the date and time, just like we don't know the date and time when Christ's going to return. But there were signs. The animals started gathering and hanging out, waiting to get, to get their boarding pass called.
And I'll tell you what, my friend, I think the animals are gathering. I think that's where we're at right now.
Exactly.
Well, a wonderful call. God bless you, my friend. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom.
And I wanted to say, you guys are getting better at getting people to get on their point and get off and handle more callers. I like that. You guys, I know you've been great, and you didn't have as many people. I've been listening to you for months, and usually I listen to you on archive because of the way they keep buzzing in on you guys and cutting you out and screwing up your programs. It's easier for me to just listen to it on archives. But
well, thank you, and we appreciate. And I'll tell you what, we appreciate the callers kind of, getting on point quicker, and it's sometimes I feel like it's like herding cats. It's difficult, and a lot of times people are, a little bit nervous, and it's tough.
They're nervous, and also they finally get to talk to somebody else that understands this.
Yes,
because I have a couple buddies at work, a buddy at work, and a couple buddies that think I'm crazy. And so when you finally get to talk to somebody that relates, you just want to keep rattling,
Oh, I know. We love people to talk, and because this is your show. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, it's your show. It's not ours. It's yours. And you're right, though. It's nice when you have like-minded people in an intellectual setting of sorts to be able to speak your mind.
Right. I was just listening to a George Norrie, a week or so, a month ago, whatever, and man, he's just he's just clicking them off, and so you guys, I enjoy the heck out of you, and you're great, and I'll get out of the way, and I'm going to try and do this chat room thing, because usually, like I said, I listen to archives on my iPhone at work because I do maintenance, and I just hit the button, listen to that program, go to the next one, another 3 hours, hit the next one,
All right, my friend. Well, yeah, the chat room, just feel free to jump in there. It should be a pretty simple task, or a pretty simple thing for you to do. God bless you.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year as well. Folks, I just want to say this. Marianne, thank you very much, and others who sent me this email about Franklin Graham. I just want to say this real quick here. Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's oldest son, he's warning that the nation's fiscal cliff is nothing to worry about compared to the spiritual cliff that he sees. And I agree. He says this. Since the recent election, we've seen same-sex couples lining up at courthouses in several states to receive their marriage licenses, hundreds of people gathering in public places to light up marijuana, cigarettes in states where it's just been decriminalized. And he says this is only the tip of the iceberg. The moral decline we've seen, and we see on television programs, the blatant immorality, the senseless violence, the media-friendly gay and lesbian behavior. You know what? That's just a reflection of the moral corruption that has infected our entire nation. These are indeed dark days, but there is hope, and Franklin Graham continues by saying, if the foundations are destroyed, and this is what the Bible says too, what can the righteous do? Well, according to Psalm 11:3, look, there's no question, or that question was asked, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? See Psalm 11, chapter 11, verse 3. No question our country's foundations are being destroyed, but I'm reminded of an era in the Old Testament where the Lord moved in a dramatic way to bring godly change to a spiritually dark and depraved nation like Judah. He talks about the reign of a king in Judah, and how the change of the people from this wicked, sacrificial, evil, immoral people, where God changed their hearts. Idols were smashed, and spirits, these witches and such, were removed, and the worship of the one true God was reinstated. And Franklin Graham just said, look, if it can happen back then, it can happen now. So there is hope, and I think that we have to put our hope in God and know that, if God can change the hearts of men 2,000 years ago, He can do it again. If that's what is to happen. So, Franklin Graham, interesting. I like the guy. I mean, I think he's genuine. I just the fact that there is hope. When we talk, we always say, "Well, there's no hope. Everything's gone." Well, we see miracles in the Bible, and he points one out there. So, just wanted to sneak that in there before another call.
All right, we're going to go to the calls, and we might not get to all you guys because there's still a bunch of people on hold.
Let's hurry.
So we're going to get as many in as we can. Hold on longest is area code 701. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Howdy. Expect miracles daily. Hello?
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, what you said.
Expect miracles daily.
Oh, yes. Amen to that.
I was on David Icke's book, Remember Who You Are. He has some pictures in there of Obama. He has scars on his neck and head of looking like heavy surgery was performed.
Yeah, we've seen that. Folks, what do you think about that? Excuse me, I just yelled there. What do you think about that, ladies and gentlemen, especially in the chat room? What do you think about that? I don't know what to make of that. Caller, what do you make of that?
Well, if it's anything like the scars he enhanced, something was really performed, whether it's mental surgery or implanted, I have no idea.
Well, it's something that we've seen. Yeah, I can't explain it. I don't know. We know less and less about this guy.
People refer to the scar as like the Antichrist gets a head wound and comes back. But I think the Bible is more specific. If I'm not mistaken, I could be. I think, isn't there an actual injury that takes place and he comes back and it surprises everybody?
Yeah.
Like it's in full view of the people?
But I don't even. I think the caller. I'm not even sure if you're going down that road of
there's a whole other possible ability of explanation.
Yeah,
that are all evil and anything from being programmed to being whatever. I don't know that he's ever explained it. I don't know that anyone's even dared to ask him. But there is something weird about it.
Yeah, another little thing. You know that from the original Aramaic,
Aramaic, yes.
Original Bible, we got the Cliff Notes version after Constantine got through with it.
That's a good point. And people don't realize that back at the Council of Nicaea, what happened. They selected certain books, and but what we're left with, I believe, 66 books written by 69 different authors, or 69 books by 66 authors. I'm not sure, but what we have is the product of the Council of Nicaea.
Yeah, there's Greg Braden pointed out that in Revelation, John had a second vision of a world of peace that's not in the real what we got.
Well, Joe, doesn't the Bible talks about a reign of peace, but a peace of not of God, right?
Well, it does talk about when Jesus returns to the earth.
But isn't there a 1,000-year reign of peace that is actually a false peace, or am I wrong?
No, that's when God, from what I understand, that is when God comes back and reigns over the earth. And then, as far as what I know, and I got to admit, when I read the Bible, I pick and choose all kinds of different books and verses. Hardly do I sit down and read through whole chapters like I should. But let's see what people in the chat have to say.
Yeah.
The millennium, yeah.
Okay. We'll call her. Anything else before we cut you loose? Because we're going to try to put some other calls here.
No, that's what I had.
All right, my friend. God bless, man. Thanks for the call, Mike. Interesting. Yeah, we're going to look into that. Thank you very much for the call.
Peace. Bye.
Joe, I want to just tell you one thing here. And Marianne, thank you so much for this email. We were talking about the cross in the Pope's chair. Okay. And Marianne points something out. And thank you, Marianne, for pointing this out. There's an old tradition that the Apostle Peter was crucified upside down. Now, it's according to that tradition. When Peter was going to be crucified, he said that he wasn't worthy to die the same way that Jesus died. So he asked the Romans to crucify him upside down. Hence the upside-down cross on the back of the Pope's chair, which has nothing to do with Satanism. It has to do with the Pope occupying the chair of Peter. And I should have picked that up from my days at the seminary, because boy, does this ring some bells. So that's the explanation there. And Marianne, thank you very much for that clarification.
Yeah, let's move on to the phones here. Area code. We have 2856 area codes. We're going to go to 8569 first.
8569?
Hopefully that's not too confusing. 856, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hello.
Yep, you're up.
Okay, I had a couple of comments. A few weeks ago, you were talking about 5,000 to 6,000 TSA workers getting laid off.
I don't remember.
That might have been a news. That might have been a news article called specifically. But go ahead.
Okay. Would they be replaced by UN troops, you think? I'll just make these comments and then I'll let you talk. Replaced with UN troops, and then locally here, I'm from East Tennessee. My name's David, and East Tennessee, and the county I live in, I've got a real good friend that was a bus driver for years, a school bus driver, and at the beginning of the school year this fall, they had all the school bus drivers come in, and they made them sign a paper saying that if martial law was declared, or an event of any sort, earthquake or anything that would cause martial law, that instead of taking the kids home, even if they had them on the bus, they would bring them back to the school. She wouldn't sign it, so she had to leave her job. I wonder if that's something that went on all over the United States.
Well, you were talking to all kinds of locations all over the United States. Folks, I'm going to put this out for our listeners. If you know, or if you are a bus driver, a school bus driver, or if you know one, and we're going to do the same here. We're going to ask our school district here if you are forced or asked to sign a paper saying that in the event of a national emergency, martial law, or whatever, if you were to take the children instead of going home, delivering them to their homes, if you were instructed to take them to the school, back to the school for lockdown, essentially. That's the question. If you have any information, please send it to us via email, via our website at homelandsecurityus.com. So we'll throw that out there, caller.
Okay. Also, the news everywhere is trying to get officers in the schools with firearms. If the school bus drivers took the students back to the school, or it happened while they were in school, not en route home or to school, that those 5,000 to 6,000 laid off TSA workers replaced by UN troops could possibly hold the kids. And I talked to the local radio station here in my town, and he said he had put that out there before because it was kind of a policy for the whole government system to bring the kids into a stadium-like setting, and the parents would have to come to the schools to pick up their kids personally instead of having them on the school bus. And he said he had put that out before and didn't get any response from it. But since these shootings in the schools, we love our kids, and if they wanted to take the guns and they kept a mother's child in a school and made them come to get them and pushed the issue of taking guns at that point, or you ain't getting your kids, then, it's very possible that a lot of people turn over their guns.
Well, caller, I'm of the other opinion. That's the last thing I'd ever want to do is get between a mother and her children, or a determined dad and the children, because, let me tell you, you don't want to get in the middle of that, and that would be a big mistake in my view. However,
how long would it take them to put the TSA workers as guards in the schools?
Well, they've
good point.
Those roaches have found their way to the highways now, and from the airports to the train stations to the bus stations to the highways. It's not going to be long before they're on the local streets and schools, movie theaters, and I guarantee if we see, a few more of these events like we saw in the last month or two, there will be a call, and the people will ask for it.
Yeah, actually, like Kissinger said, they're going to be begging for troops on the streets. Back in the 70s, he said that. But yeah,
they're already demonstrating that they will use our kids. Even everything that's happened has been from, Columbine all the way to now through the school system, and it's just infiltrated, shooters in the school system or in a setting where children usually go to movie theaters or something.
That's a good point. Caller, you make a good point on that. Isn't that interesting how from Columbine to Sandy Hook, the schools have been targeted? So that's very interesting. We're going to have to keep our eye on that. But God bless you. Thank you for the call. And the word's out there for not a problem. The word's out there for bus drivers. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. We're going to inquire here. I made a note, Joe. We'll inquire here.
Okay. And I did see a weird thing about the Sandy Hook shooting, that this that was accused of the killing was posting on Facebook. Right. I'm not in the school. I'm still in the bus. just real weird things. I'll show you the video after the show, 'cause you got to see it. It has the medical.
I just want another thing about Sandy Hook too. There were 4 movies that were just real quick, folks, and the people who follow that do the deep research into Illuminati, the bigger picture thing. 4 movies that were released at the same weekend: Skyfall, Lincoln, Citadel, and A Royal Affair. There's 4 movies: Skyfall, Lincoln, Citadel, and A Royal Affair. In the trailer in Skyfall, there's a trailer for the Dark Knight movie, Dark Knight Returns, and in the trailer it showed specifically a building with a sign showing with a sign that said Aurora, and it was supposedly the sign on the top of a building in Shanghai, China. And there's a lot of symbolism there I won't get into, but I just found that a rather interesting thought as we put pieces of that together.
We only have a few minutes left in tonight's program, and I want to end with this. This is something that came out of the book I was talking about.
Dude, people are going to start really calling us up at night and saying, "Why didn't you take my call?" And I'm sorry.
No, I think we got through most of them.
Okay.
But,
sorry about that, people.
Yeah, I see the numbers here. I'll write them down, and if you guys want to call back the next open show,
they're going to call us at 3 in the morning and wake us up.
It's hard when you run out of time.
Yeah, I know.
This is part 1 of this book, and it just has 4 questions. And I'm just gonna read the questions and let you guys ponder on this. 1, God has a plan for your life. 2, God's plan for you cannot happen because of your sin. 3, you must be forgiven for your sin to have God's plan for your life. 4, Jesus has made a way for you to be forgiven. And I guess I'll read a little bit more.
Well, wait a second. I'm not sure the context of that.
This is, okay, God has a plan for your life.
It's not really a question. That's just...
No, it's 4 things that is...
okay.
God made you for a purpose, and you are special to Him.
Right.
That's why He died for all of us. God's plan for you cannot happen because of your sin. It says sin is disobeying God's laws and not doing what He has commanded us to do. By doing so, those who are in sin will be cast into hell, and it's as simple as that. And I know a lot of as Pastor Paul would say, the fluffy, puffy preachers so often ignore that message, but it is a reality. And I would say, 90% of the people at least live.
So we're all sinners, though.
Right, but we are. But 3. You must be forgiven for your sin to have a part of to have God's plan for your life.
Right.
It says when we sin, we are punished for the sin. The Bible says punishment for sin is death. Romans 6:23. The death the Bible is talking about is not just the body, but of the spirit, which lives forever, being in an everlasting punishment in hell. Jesus, the Son of God, who knew all things, explained what hell is like. He said hell is like a lake of fire, and that everyone who goes there is separated from God forever. And burns in the fire that never ends. That's out of Mark chapter 9, 47 and 48.
Wow.
Our sins separate us from God in this life and after this life. So you cannot be a part of God's plan. Apparently, this is what the book's saying. We cannot have God's plan for our lives when we are separated from Him. But there has been a way. Jesus has made the way for you to be forgiven. And it goes into a couple different verses. And, He sent the Son, Jesus, to be punished for our sins. God loves us so much, He gave His only Son to die for us as payment for our sins. He did not send His Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through Him. Whosoever believes in Him is not condemned, but whosoever does not believe in Him is condemned already. And there's more to it than that. We must, get out of sin. We must have the most obedient minds. We have to be more careful than ever. Every day, every single decision we make, we have to ask, is this going to please God or not? And usually it tells you in your gut before your head can even contemplate.
90 seconds.
And we have to remember.
I like that. If you know in your gut, and that's the Spirit talking, I suppose.
Yeah. It's been a great short week with you guys. We'll be back in just a short day or 2 days on Sunday night. Don't forget, I'll post it in the chat room one more time. We have a special guest coming on with Steve Quayle on Sunday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. You are not going to want to miss this show, from what I understand.
60 seconds.
This gentleman is going to be spilling the beans, I guess. And
yeah, it's time. It's the Financial Insider, and folks, if you don't mind just spreading the word on Facebook, all your social media platforms, and like it. If you can take our article, like our article, and then share with others, because we want to get as many people listening to this as possible. This person's putting his life on the line. He's been threatened.
Yeah.
I can verify that.
This is no hoax, no nothing. This is real, and it's serious. God bless each and every one of you. We hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you Sunday night. And if not, check the archives for that. Definitely.
Well, thanks for listening. Really.
Absolutely.
God bless every one of you.
Good night.
10 seconds. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.